And so I do like the idea of being able to just raise little mini me's, you know? I always used to say when I first got started with entrepreneurship and like started achieving success, like, man, if I just had like 5 or 6 more of me, I'm like, it's a wrap. Like, you know, I'd be a billionaire already at 19, you know? And so I think being able...
This is the Leo Climaco podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the Leo Climaco podcast. Man, my guest today is JetSet. What's up, bro?
Yo, what's good, man? Excited to be here.
Excited to have you here, bro.
Man, excited to drop some value. I have no idea what we're getting into, but man, I'm ready to fire off. I got a lot of information, a lot of experiences, and I think your audience will get a lot of value from it.
That's incredible. Man, I just interviewed your brother, who is an incredible person, incredible energy, and I think the two of you, like, I look at the two of you, and that's how I want my kids to be. I have 2 boys. I would love my boys to be as united, as connected, as bonded as you and your brother are. I think it's awesome. I think your parents did a good job, and it's powerful to have 2 brothers that are aligned, working together, serving, and helping others.
You know, I tell a lot of, sometimes my parents, they'll wonder, like, did we do a good job parenting? And they'll sit down, they'll be like, maybe we worked a little bit too much, or maybe, you know, we had a little bit too much focus over here.
Right.
And they'll like almost like apologize. And I'll tell them, I'm like, who I am today, I absolutely freaking love. Like who my brother is, he absolutely loves. And like, you know, and when we go in the world, people see us as like role models.
Yes.
And then even a lot of my friends and a lot of his friends will see my parents as their like second set of parents.
That's awesome.
And like, I never really saw it like that kind of growing up because your parents are just your parents. And so it's just normal for you.
Right.
But so many, like every year, my friends will reach out from like, you know, middle school, high school, tell your parents I said, you know, happy Christmas or Merry Christmas.
That's awesome.
They were like my second father, my second mother. And that's when it clicked for me that my parents did a really good job. I think they play the role of like the parent persona really well compared to, I think, a lot of people who are parents today. Being a parent is more like in the back burner.
Right.
You know, they don't really think about how should I consciously raise my kids? What should I show them? You know, like my parents were very, they were strict in a way, but it wasn't like strict where like you can't do anything, like we're gonna torture you.
They were fair.
Right. It's like you have to earn what you want.
Right.
Like if I wanted to buy something, they're like, well, we're going to give you an opportunity to work, to earn money. We'll show you how to make money, how to start a business so you can go buy that, but we're not just going to buy it for you.
Right.
You know, and so I think, like I tell my parents, they're the best parents in the world, and I genuinely believe it. And so I do think it's in the most humble way possible. It's a good goal. I'm sure your kids can be better than us, you know, because they're the stuff that we do today. We're all learning on our way, on our path, you know. But I do appreciate that.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. I think it's important to have good role models for you to, you know, look up to. I think so many kids lack good role model. And it's awesome that your parents were able to be that role model for so many other kids.
Right.
You know?
Right. No, for sure. And I think that probably plays a role in my brother's decision making. He said he wants 6 kids.
Yes.
I think I want like 11 to 13, you know? And I'll probably adopt a couple because we do have an adopted sister as well.
Okay.
And we kind of like brought in kids that my parents kind of like worked with and helped, you know, for as much as we can. And so I do like the idea of being able to just raise little mini me's, you know? I always used to say when I first got started with entrepreneurship and like started achieving success, like, man, if I just had like 5 or 6 more of me, I'm like, it's a wrap. Like, you know, I'd be a billionaire already at 19. You know, and so I think being able to have my little science experiment kids and test out all the strategies that I think work on them will be interesting, you know?
And it's very interesting how it occurs, right? I have 2 boys. My older one is a lot like his mom, but he looks physically more like me, like body structure. My younger one is all me, but looks more like his mom.
Really?
Yeah, so that just switched out how it works. So she got her mini-me and I got my mini-me.
You think it's like genetics, or do you think environmental factors, or just time, or
all the
chance?
Above. All the above. All the above. I think because he was the firstborn, he received more of her emotional love.
Right. That makes a lot of sense.
Right?
Yeah.
And the second one, everyone say, right, your first baby, you're so concerned. The second kid, you're like, fuck it, he's fine. You know?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
So tell me about yourself. Where'd you grow up?
Where did I grow up? I spent probably most of my time growing up in a little tiny little town called Menifee. It wasn't even a city when we first moved there.
No.
I was like 6 or 7 years old. I stayed there until about 18 and went to college. Before that, so I was born in Orange County. My dad went to Ohio State Medical School. And so like so I always say it's kind of funny looking back in hindsight. I was on my first flight, like probably less than a week old.
Wow.
You know, and between like 1 and 2, because my mom was in Orange County while my dad was in medical school at Ohio State, I probably bounced back and forth on planes maybe like 20 or 30 times.
Wow.
Obviously, I don't recall.
Right.
But I feel like there's some part of like subconscious part of me that somehow made me feel like an affinity or an alignment to like traveling and, the jet set lifestyle, et cetera.
Is that where JetSet came from?
Yeah, I used to follow this guy when I was, because I'm young, right? Or relatively young compared to, when social media first started.
How old are you?
I'm 27,
Okay.
just turned 27. And so when I was in 8th grade, Instagram just came out. Like it was just came out. I remember we'd be on our phones in school. Teachers would be like, hey, like, get off your phone, get confiscated. Like, you kind of had to hide it and stuff like that. I think iPod touches were barely probably in their second or third generation. It wasn't even really like phones, And so I remember there was this page on Instagram and it was jet_set_life. And the dude never really showed like his face too much. He never had his real identity, but it was all just like a lifestyle, travel, the mansions, the cars, the planes, like everything just amazing.
The beginning of that.
Right. And yeah, he was probably one of the first guys who was like into the lifestyle stuff. And all of his quotes were really long, like motivational, inspirational quotes just about like success. And I remember I seen this, and again, this is early stages, like super early. And I was just like, I never thought like anybody can live like that. He looked relatively young.
Right.
And in my mind at the time, I was gonna be a doctor. I'm like, by 30 years old, I could probably be making like $100,000, $200,000 a year. And I'm like, I'll live in an apartment for 4 or 5 years, stack my money, buy a GTR. Then eventually I'll have a Lambo when I'm like 45. Like, and I had this whole plan mapped out, because my dad's a doctor. And so I had this whole plan mapped out. Obviously, my parents were like kind of pushing that on me when I was a kid. And then I saw this guy, and it just like shattered all those paradigms. And I was so inspired. I remember I changed my Instagram name at the time was like something stupid, like something like King Versace like 775 or something like something stupid. Yeah. And so I saw his IG and I was like just started kind of changing my different usernames, trying to figure out I wanted to jet set something, but without the underscores and all the weird stuff. And it must have took me, I don't know, like 50, 60 tries. And then it was like jet set fly and it was like available. And I was like, boom, and I changed it. So I'm only like 13, 14 at this time.
Wow.
And so I remember I go to school and all my friends were like, jet set fly? And eventually I got JetSet. That's where JetSet came from because I was able to get that username. But my friends were like, JetSet fly? Like, what the heck's a JetSet fly? And they would kind of make like joke around that I was like an actual like fly, buzzing around.
Got it.
And they'd be like, oh, look, it's the fly, like, bzz, like that, stuff like that.
Fucking kids.
And, yeah. And they would be like, what does that even mean? And I was like, it's the lifestyle I want to live. Like, I want to be able to do whatever I want, whenever I want, with whoever I want, wherever I want, like just because I want. Yeah. And I'm like, and it's the lifestyle I'm going to live when I get older. And so I'm like claiming it now. And my dad taught me manifestation like super young.
I was gonna say, man.
Yeah.
Super young for you to know that. It's awesome.
Right. I actually thought growing up that like everybody thought that's how the world worked. And my dad taught me when I was young, like I used to play basketball. I was telling you how I get in flow state now.
Yeah.
Is like I'll just, whether there's an actual basketball or whether it's in my mind, I'll imagine kind of like shooting and then until I like lock in on that, okay, I would make this if this was a real shot. And I remember when I used to play basketball when I was young, dude, probably like 6 or 7. And if I missed a shot, I was so emotional back then. I'd be like, all pouty. I was one of those kids that like, if they weren't on game, like they had an attitude and they would make sure everybody saw like, this is my attitude. And in my mind, the logic behind it was like, well, if I act like this, they'll know that I'm usually a lot better. And so if I act all pissed off.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, if I act all pissed off, they'll think, oh, he's just off today, but he's probably way better than how he's playing.
Got it.
And then obviously little did I know that just makes you even worse because you don't have that connection, you're not in flow. And so every time I missed a shot, my dad would be like, did you visualize it going in? And I'd be like, no, And he's like, you need to visualize it. And then so the next shot, obviously, of course, I would visualize it. And somehow I would always just make the next shot whenever he kind of called me out on it.
That's great.
And so my mind made that connection that like, oh, if I see it going in and then I shoot it before just randomly shooting it, like my chances of making it are significantly higher, if not like damn near close to guaranteed.
Right.
And that just kind of stuck in my mind. I think I became almost like a psycho in terms of visualizing, because I just started visualizing everything that I wanted.
What an incredible lesson.
You know? Right, no, it didn't even click until later on. Like people would be like, how did you, because I made my first $1 million at 19, and people would be like, how did you do it? Da, da, da. And I was like, dude, you're just lazy. Like, just see it in your mind, do it. It didn't take until me actually having some really serious ups and downs that when I actually kind of lost that mentality for a while and had to rebuild back to it, where I realized like, oh shit, most people don't think like this. And so they're like battling. So for me, I'm not even battling anything. I'm just like, see it go. They're battling like multiple battles in their mind while also trying to get what they want. And so the challenge is way harder because they're not wired correctly. So some people joke around about mindset, like, oh, these people talk about mindset, this is that, like we need the strategies. Don't get me wrong, I know a lot of motherfucking strategies, but I had less strategies and made more money than times I've had more strategies and had, less money purely because of how I thought and how I operated.
Because you complicate less.
Right.
The more you know, the more you complicate shit.
Right, it's the curse of knowledge.
Yes. And also the benefits of having amazing parents.
Right, yeah, seriously.
Because it gave you that structure, it gave you that discipline, it gave you incredible know-how and knowledge from your father who's a doctor.
Right.
Super intelligent. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think a lot of your friends saw that.
Right.
And that's why they gravitated to your parents.
No, that makes a lot of sense because I would go to my friend's house to try to leave and get away from kind of some of the strictness sometimes.
Right.
Because my parents would be like, oh, I want to play outside. Okay, you need to read 2 hours first. And so actually it's funny because like I used to despise reading. I'm like, and I was reading like, I don't know how young I was, but I was reading at like 12th grade level, probably like 6th grade.
Wow.
But like I used to hate it, like, because it was something I was forced to do.
Yeah.
So now looking back, I would do things differently. I would take a lot of the same ideals and principles, but I would like persuade my kids differently, but even still looking back, I see the value in it, in hindsight. But they would make us like read a certain amount of time. And then, so if I was able to go to one of my friend's house, I knew my friend's parents were less strict. They didn't really give a shit. Like my parents, like, there was no way I was ever gonna cuss in front of my parents ever. Like even if I ever cussed at school without them there, I'd be like looking around, like, just to make sure I don't, nobody's around. And my friends would like cuss with their parents around, hey, what's up, mom? What's up, my, whatever. And I'm like, what the hell? But I'm like, well, at least if I know I'm here, I can go do whatever I want. We can go at 12 o'clock a.m. to Jack in the Box. We can go to the party at 1 a.m. and try to meet some girls, like whatever it was.
Right.
And my parents thought I was at a friend's house. So, but now looking back, I see some of those friends and they're still in my hometown. They're not really doing much, so it makes a lot of sense.
And how many books do you read per year now?
Not as much now, but I had a couple of years where I've read probably upwards of like 200 for maybe like 2 years straight.
Right.
When I first started, probably like 50, 80
But
bucks.
I bet that reading for you is nothing.
Dude,
it's not even a challenge, probably.
No, dude, I read so much, and most of it is not just because I don't read books now, but
Right,
I
you're
read
reading
like
articles
blogs,
or this,
articles,
right.
GPT. Like I asked ChatGPT the other day, how many hours have I spent on you conversating back and forth? And it's over 1,000 hours.
Wow.
Over 1,000 hours just conversating. And I'm not just conversating like, does my outfit look good? Like I'm like, break down the psychology of this. Let's go deeper. I'm like 5 layers deeper. I'm like go into the subtle nuances that most people wouldn't catch.
Right.
And I'm like, give me the opposing argument that would make my argument look like shit, and then help me. Like, so I'm trying to like, really strengthen how I think. I think my personality type, if you know the 16 personalities,
Yes.
Myers-Briggs,
Yep.
is debater. So I'm always like debating and challenging people, like back and forth. They're like, this is what I think, and I'll challenge it, and I'll challenge it hard, and they'll start getting more like defensive on their angle with more points, and I'll just start coming up with more points. And at the end, like sometimes if they get frustrated, I could tell. And I'm like, look, bro, I really don't give a shit. I have no vested interest in the outcome. Like I have no dog in the fight. I'm just purely challenging you so you can see both sides, and so I can get better at like expanding my mind and understanding your point of view as well.
Right.
Same with my parents, because like they'll be like, this, that, like Trump, or this is that, Biden, whatever. I'm like, well, what if this, that? And I'm like, no, because I'm like, yeah, you can say that, but I'm like, but it's not black and white. It's not binary. Like, I go so deep into it. And they're like, you should be a lawyer. I'm like, yeah, maybe.
I think what you do is way more profitable and way more beneficial.
Right.
Than being a lawyer.
Right. Yeah, well, that's the goal. My mentor told me once when I was young, one of my first mentors, he's like, look, dude, you could be right or you could be rich. He's like, you have to pick one. You can't have both. You can be right or you can be rich. And I was like, shit, all right, I'd rather be rich. And so I'm willing to put down, and that's actually probably one of the strongest skill sets I've learned, is being able to put down the ego and put down the pride and understand kind of other people's personality types. Because some people, they might not have had, let's say, for example, a strong growing up and like, parenthood that I've had.
Right.
And so
that foundation.
Right. And my parents kind of used to brag about me.
As a podcaster, I needed a place to share my voice and hear other stories. That's how Forge Studios was born. A place created not just for me, but for everyone searching for something more. An environment where as soon as you walk in, you feel the energy and you feel welcomed. Where being seen and heard is part of the experience. A place for entrepreneurs to share their journey, for creators to bring ideas to life, for businesses to grow authentically. A space that values mental health, encourages real conversations, and supports those who turns ideas into impact. Here at the Forge Studios, creativity, culture, and purpose aligns and comes together to help you create something greater. A place where we leave the filters behind and we start expressing ourselves for real. The Forge Studio. Your journey starts here. Your impact starts now.
To the point I didn't like it when I was younger. They'd be like, oh, my son got all A's, or he did this, or he did that, in front of other parents. And I could see their parents feeling like, almost kind of like, oh, that's nice. Like, but I don't think my parents picked up on those cues.
How did that make you feel?
Actually, I would feel like kind of like shit.
Really?
Like over time. At first it's kind of cool, but then it's like, in my mind, I'm like, you guys don't have anything else to talk about? And so what I think that did, looking back, is that built my, not even my self-esteem, but it built my standard for myself as like, this is just a minimum. It's not like you get an A, it's not like good job. It's like, what else did you really think you're going to get?
Right.
Like, it's like, that's the bare minimum expectation. Like something would be wrong if you did anything else but that, And so like.
A lot of pressure.
Yeah, a lot of pressure. Like that internal pressure, obviously now, subconsciously, and even consciously, because I'm aware of it, is always like, is railing on me. And I'm always like, I could just chill, just breathe. Like, I don't have to work 10 hours today. I could just chill. Right. I have to kind of remind myself of that. But I think what that did is because it set my standard and my expectation for myself so high, that it allows me to be a source of validation for other people and not need to chase it and be like, oh, look, I did all this. Like, aren't you happy? Aren't you proud? But I can give that to other people. So they're like, oh, I worked so hard, and I can give them that validation. And I know that that's what they crave or that's what they seek.
Right.
Or if somebody else has an ego and they want to be perceived a certain way, I can feed their ego because I'm like, dude, I just want to make money. I don't need the credit for the idea. It's your business idea. You're the genius. You're this. You play that role. I play this role. Boom, let's go run it up. And so most people can't really do that because they'll butt heads too much because they're both fighting for like the resources, but also being right and also the money and all these other things.
Being the star also, right?
Right, exactly.
Who's in the front, who's in the back, right?
Exactly.
So how'd you make your first mil at 19?
It's kind of crazy because it's almost now a decade, which it doesn't feel like that. But I first started off in, when I was 17 years old, I was in high school. And I actually started off with building a fitness brand. So this was, again, back when Instagram was still very early.
Yeah.
I remember actually, it's funny, there was a kid in my school who, what was the app? It was like a voice syncing app or something. Like people would sing, but they're not really singing. There's like a song would be playing.
I know you're talking about.
I don't remember the name of the app, but.
There was one called Lip Sync that was that, but I think you're talking about a different one. Isn't that what TikTok became?
Kinda, yeah, pretty much. It was like the pre-Vine.
Yeah.
Pre-TikTok. It was pretty much like the earliest version of that. And I remember that there's this kid on my basketball team, or not my basketball team, but he was on the freshman basketball team. I was on the senior varsity. And I used to be like a fitness trainer at the gym because all I did, I remember I took this photo with a couple buddies on the track team, and then I looked at it and I didn't realize how skinny I was until I saw the photo with me and 3 friends by the pool, and I was just so scrawny. And I used to get made fun of when I was little when I was scrawny, but I was kind of just forgot about that.
Yeah.
But I was so scrawny, I felt like I looked like one of those kids in the little African commercials. And I remember I saw that and I'm like, don't post that. I'm like, don't post that. And ever since that day, I just started hitting the gym twice a day for 6 months.
Wow.
And I probably put on 15 pounds of muscle. And then every, really wasn't making that much money back then. Like I did everything that I wanted to do in my high school version. Like I bought my first car cash, like 14 grand, saved up. I used to flip things since second grade because my parents taught me like how to buy beanies, how to buy chains, how to buy iPhone cases, how to buy shirts. And I would just buy them from China and I would flip them at school. And then I eventually started kind of flipping things on eBay. And so then I figured out how to go Facebook viral in like early high school. Like how to, and it was, you know, now looking back, I'm like, damn, I was kind of slimy, but it was like, I'd repost those little Jesus photos that people would post like if good to go to heaven, ignore, go to hell. You know, and I would repost those, like, I see it have like 200,000 likes, and I'm like, let me just repost it. And then I put at the end, like, by the way, have these snapbacks available for sale, you know, and it'd be a different photo in the comments. I'm like, reach out if you want to buy one. And then so I'd ride my bike all the way around like 20, 30 miles in the local cities, selling to all the other kids at the other schools these like snapback hats.
That's crazy.
And so like I had like a really, by the time I got to high school, I had a really big network, like 5,000 Facebook friends, but people all from local like Tri-City area. And so I bought my first car cash. I saved up for it. It was like 14 grand.
What'd you buy? What car?
Genesis Coupe.
Nice.
Yeah, and I souped it up, lowered it, did all this stuff. And that was when I got my first job. So after I got the car, I was like, I don't want to grind no more. Like that was all I wanted, you know? And so then I got a job, essentially being like, I guess you say like janitor, like sanitation, at one of my dad's friends' works. And I would just like during the summer, like, you know, rake up leaves, paint things, pick up trash.
Okay.
And I would just work all damn day because I was just like, you know, all I wanted to do was buy car parts.
I think every man should do labor work at some point in their life.
Right.
Just know how that feels.
1,000%. And I'll tell you what I learned right there, right then. I don't want to work where I get my hands dirty. You know, since then, like, you know, if I get an order like something to get built at the house or furniture or whatever, and then like one of my girls might be like, oh, like let's just build it, or you could just build it, da da da. I'm like, I'm not doing that. Like, you know, like, oh, it takes 15 minutes. Like even I can do it. I'm like, then you can do it, but I'm just gonna I'm just gonna hire somebody. Like, I'm not gonna get my hands dirty. And like, oh, you're such like a princess. And I'm like, no, these hands are reserved for freaking keyboards. For keyboards and, you know, and iPhone touchscreens. Like, you know, like I know where I'm good at. Yeah. I'm not gonna waste my time, waste my energy, and also even risk getting possibly hurt, like slicing up on my finger or whatever the hell, little stupid things. Yeah. Just because of whatever reason, because you know, somebody may have seen their father building stuff, being a handyman.
I agree with you. Like, fuck what you think.
Yeah, you know, that's just not me. I know where I'm good at, and I'm gonna stay in my lane. And everything outside of that, I'm gonna go find somebody who's good at that. You know, in my mind, that boosts the economy, that keeps
I'm the
food
exact
on his
same
table,
way, 100%.
That keeps me feeling in my highest peak state.
Saves you time.
Right, that too, 1,000%. 1,000%. You know, because otherwise I'm gonna sit there like for fucking 3 hours.
Yeah, look at this fucking manual how to build this shit.
You know, and so that's kind of like my background in terms of like early school. I was always making money, pretty much since like second grade. And I got in the habit of buying my own things. Like my parents would get the necessities, but if I wanted, like, for example, if I got a brand new pair of like shoes from Payless, and I was just a kid that played outside all the time, so I get holes in my shoes really fast. And I was like, I need new shoes. Like sometimes I feel like I probably played a little bit more aggressive to make the holes faster.
Right.
And I need new shoes. And my parents were like, we just got you new shoes 2 weeks ago. Like you should have took better care of them. We're not buying you new shoes. So now I'm like, all right, shit. So that's when I kind of started realizing, okay, I can sell things. I can make money.
I gotta go get my own stuff.
And I can go get it on my own, on my own time, on my own schedule. And so that I think obviously was a massive breakthrough looking back in hindsight. But then again, at the time, I fucking hated it. Because I'm like, oh, my friends, their parents buy them shoes. My friends, they get them Xbox to have a TV in the room, you know, and I have to do it all myself.
I know exactly how that feels.
You know? And looking back, I'm like, damn, thank God I had to do it all myself, you know? And so fast forward to 18 years old.
Taught you so much.
Yeah, a lot for sure. Like my whole identity, really, you know?
Yeah.
And so fast forward 18 years old, I got recruited into a network marketing company. And my buddy was trying to get me to go to this event. He's like,
which one?
It was called Zengo.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of Vima? This was like, I don't know if you know Alex Morton.
No, I've heard of IML.
IML. So Alex Morton's the president of IML. He's one of my good friends and one of my early mentors. But he was like the #1 guy in Vima way back. Like,
got it.
This was like 2012, 2013. Like this was like the first big wave. Like young people got into network marketing, and then that company, Vima, went through like some lawsuit, which they recently won in the last few years, like against the FTC or something. But then like half of the people in Vima switched to this company called Zengo, and the other half switched to like I think it was like Jeunesse or something. And so I got recruited into the people who joined Zengo. like right after, like, they all just joined Zengo. It was like month one. And then I somehow got recruited because one of my clients, one of my fitness clients, was inside of the company. And then he like recruited like my other business partner that I did fitness with. And then I got recruited, and you know how the game goes.
I do.
And so I remember going to the event, and this was my first time ever seeing like young people who are like ultra successful, like, and like if you ever seen the network marketing culture, it's like very like infectious, like, it's just very like, you go there and you're like, whoa, you leave on a high. Like it's not normal reality. It's not how normal people operate. It's not how
I'm a
normal
little
people
older
think.
than you, so in my day it was Amway. So I joined Amway.
Okay.
This was back in 07, 08, 07. Yes.
How'd that go?
For me, terrible. For me, it was fucking terrible. But I recall going to my first big meeting. It was in Hofstra University in New York. Big ass stadium. And they had the diamond level, and they had the platinum level, and they had this level and that level. I'm like, holy shit, how do I get there?
Right. It's tough. It's tough. Like I joined, and because I kind of built up my network through selling things over the years, and you know how if you live in the same city, small city, everybody that you know from like elementary to middle school to high school, they're all kind of in the same school, same system still.
Oh yeah.
And so I built up my kind of network. I was in like fitness training, and I've now I went from like being like the scrawny kid to like now I'm like everyone thought I was on steroids, which I wasn't. I just ate. I have good metabolism, good genetics, and I ate 2 pizzas a day before I went to the gym. and and I spent all my money on protein and creatine, like and so now I'm like the buff fit kid, and I'm also like a fitness coach, trainer, or whatever. And the guy that I was like business partners with was like kind of like a cool kid from like a different city, but he lived in my city. So he went to a different school, but he lived in my city.
Got it.
And so like we would be working out at the gym together, and he was like just swole. Like he looks like Ashton Hall.
Okay.
Like back when he was like 19. Like he's probably bigger back then than Ashton Hall even is now. And he's like 6'2".
Crazy.
With crazy bounce, like between legs dunks, like just the freak nature, like
Wow.
high jumps like 6'6" without even trying. The coach was like, you should try high jump. That's like 6'6", like just a freak of nature.
That's crazy.
And so I
just gifted.
Yeah, like just gifted, like just. And then when I walked around near him, even though he's way more fit than me, way better looking, but it was like it kind of rubbed off on me a little bit, like
Of course.
And
how could it not?
yeah, and like even then, like that's where I got my confidence because I still had a scrawny kid mindset. And I remember he'd be like, oh, let's go walk here. It's like 1 a.m. And I'm like, dude, we might get robbed, blah, blah, blah. And my mom used to always tell me, like, be careful, this is that. And he's like, bro, we're like 6'2". He's like, we're freaking buff. He's like, we're half black.
No one's
like,
gonna fuck with us.
Yeah, he's like, people are gonna think we're gonna rob them, bro. He's like, come on. And then I realized, like, damn, low key, like, you're right. I'm still thinking like a little guy.
Yes.
Even though I've done all the work to be the big guy. And that moment, like, my confidence
You are
turned
now
up.
the predator.
Right. And since then, I've never been like afraid. Like, I'm never like, like paranoid. Like, my mom would be like, make sure you lock the door to the front house. I'm like, no, it's good. It's good. Like, tell them to come in here.
I'm ready.
And then some of it's more like playful, just a mindset.
Right.
But in reality, I do think it's important to feel always safe and confident in your own skin wherever you're at.
100%.
And, especially, it doesn't mean be arrogant and stupid. Like, still take precautions and have those like boundaries. But it does mean like, you can't live your life in a frozen state.
No.
Like it's just gonna happen no matter what. You got to deal with it.
Correct.
And
there's so many that do.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Stay in that frozen state year after year, decade after decade.
Right. And they continue to get that result and they wonder why, but it's like that's how their RAS, how they see the world, is locked in on that. They can't see nothing else, And so that's kind of like around that time, we ended up building a network marketing team to about 500 people in about like 2 months. And like it was crazy. It started off with like one little
Wait, hold on. 502 months.
Yeah.
That's fast.
It is. And so we started off with like one little event. Where was the first fucking event? I think we did at my buddy's house or something. It was like 7 people. And then the next event, like maybe like 15 people. And then my parents, thank God, looking back, I'm like, I didn't realize how much of an opportunity they gave me. But they allowed me to throw events at my house every day, day after day, day after day, day after day. Like, now looking back, I'm like, damn, like who just gives somebody like, do whatever you want, have like 70 random people in my house every day.
Well, they saw that you were hustling, you were working.
Right. And
right?
we
You weren't bullshitting. Right.
Right. And so
you're trying to build something.
Right.
Good parents will fuel that.
Right. No, 1,000%. And it's funny because I remember the first time I went to an event and got recruited, my mom's like, where are you at? It's like 10 p.m. I'm like, oh, I'm at a business meeting. And she's like, what business meeting goes on till 10 p.m.? And she's like, when you get home, like you're grounded, like blah, blah, blah. You're not doing anything till you're 18. It's probably like 2 weeks before 18. And I was like, I swear, I was so mad, bro. I've never been so angry.
Because you're telling the truth.
Right. And I remember I just put on one of those like motivational videos on YouTube. I just searched like motivational speech and had like one of those Spartan warriors as like the picture. And I was with my buddies driving back home. I'm closing my eyes. I'm just listening to it. And I swear to God, I think that moment of the high emotion and like, I have to go prove something now. And then like the motivational video and me kind of just dozing off to sleep and the car ride back home was like an hour drive. I swear to God, that moment was like my brain chemistry changed. Like that was like, I'm gonna do this and it's gonna be successful no matter what. And I think that flipped the switch. I turned 18, started doing these events. My parents then started letting me do it at the house. We pack it out, 500 people. And then I started to realize the challenge, like the problem. Like I can get this many people, me and my buddy, because we're excited about it. We see the opportunity, but everybody else is like an event, 2 events, 3 events, and then they're gone, they disappear, they're ghosting your text. I'm like, hey, bring friends, like nobody wanted to come. They're not like picking up on it as fast as we are. They're not really believing in it as fast as we are. And so, the first month we make like 2,000 or 3,000, which is like LeBron James, Kobe Bryant money to us back then. And now we're fucking eating out everywhere, fucking getting the best mass gainer protein. I'm like, hey kids, I know we're training you for $10 an hour, but we don't have time anymore. And life's getting good, right? High school, make about $2-3 grand a month.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's amazing, right? And starting to buy like just stupid shit, like the nicer $200, $300 shoes, all the stuff, and feeling some type of way at school, And it's kind of funny because we built this team, people started to kind of fall off, but then after people started to fall off, then you get the people that are bad-mouthing, and people are like, oh, that thing doesn't work, pyramid scheme, this is that. And then so now there's this kind of duality of like people at my school who are like on the team and support, and people who are like, oh, fuck that thing, like, I don't want to do it, yada, yada, yada. And so that kind of started to really get in my head a little bit because people post about it on Twitter. They'd be like, oh, don't go to those events. And so now like the business is being affected by this kind of social structure who doesn't understand the business model. And at that point, I remember getting frustrated and because people were literally tweeting about it at school. I unfollowed everybody on Twitter. I blocked every single person who retweeted, liked, or engaged with any post talking shit. And then I said, like, I'm going all in. They said hi to me at school. I'm like, don't talk to me. Like, and I just got like in a zone. Like, it's like almost a chip on my shoulder. I'm in a zone. And in my mind, I didn't really know any other route. But I knew this is not gonna be the thing I do forever. But right. I know this is a step because I know I have big goals. So I know this is a step. I knew that for sure. Some of my buddies were like, I'm gonna do this forever, man. Like, I was like, dude, just see it as a step into entrepreneurship and into business. And so I started over summer after graduation because I cut off all my friends. I didn't go to no parties. I didn't go to no graduation parties. I was just locked in on my computer. And all day I was like searching on Google how to learn how to make money online with something similar to network marketing, but not network marketing. Or like how to do like network marketing, but without doing like in-person events. And I was just on Google, like trying to search up all these things. And then eventually I stumbled across affiliate marketing. And I found like softwares similar to like ClickFunnels, where you can generate leads and build a business. And at first I thought, okay, I can use this tool to help the people on my team and help network marketers get more leads. But then they also had an affiliate program for the tool. And I realized I can earn recurring income and people can use the tool for whatever the hell they want.
Right.
And I can just build this as a business. And so that's what I started doing. And within about maybe 4 months, I went from $80 to $730, $1,350, $4,250, $13,000, and then it was like $27,000. I was like, fuck this, I'm dropping out of UCI.
That's crazy.
School. And then probably 6 months later, I earned about $50, $60K a month. I started also selling info products, ebooks, how I'm building success, hosting masterminds. I've probably thrown over 100 events. Fast forward, let's say about another 6 months, I'm about to turn 19, or like 3-4 months before I turn 19. And there's another individual who was in the space that I was in, probably one of the first individuals. His name was Jeff Bunting, one of the first kind of like young guys, internet marketing. He was one of Ty Lopez top students. And he was earning like $250,000 a month. I got connected with him. He told me, hey, my roommate just moved out. Come move in with me in his penthouse. To me at the time, that was like $7K a month. I would have had a pitch. And that was like the whole price of my rent with like 3 roommates I was currently with, but that were kind of like holding me back a little bit. And he's like, bro, just do it. And in my mind, I'm like, fuck, like, that's a lot of money. And then I realized just like, dude, if I live with him, being around him, I'm gonna just level up. Like, I know that.
You're gonna make that money so fast.
Yeah, and so I was like, all right, he's like, just stay here 3 days. You don't have to pay. If you like it, you stay. obviously at that point he had me, you know,
Hooked you, yeah.
he had me. So I moved in, and then that month I made $100,000, my first $100,000 month.
Wow.
You know, and it wasn't really, I did anything different, but I knew he was making over 100K a month, and I was like, I need to I need to grind. So every day I was working, no breaks, no parties, just working. And since then, by the end of that year, dude, I was doing about $800,000 a month. And then the year after that, I hit my first like $1.8 million month with a 750 person event.
That's crazy.
And from there, it's been like ups and downs, different seasons.
As a podcaster, I needed a place to share my voice and hear other stories. That's how Forge Studios was born. A place created not just for me, but for everyone searching for something more. An environment where as soon as you walk in, you feel the energy and you feel welcomed. Where being seen and heard is part of the experience. A place for entrepreneurs to share their journey, for creators to bring ideas to life, for businesses to grow authentically. A space that values mental health, encourages real conversations, and supports those who turns ideas into impact. Here at the Forge Studios, creativity, culture, and purpose aligns and comes together to help you create something greater. A place where we leave the filters behind and we start expressing ourselves for real. The Forge Studio. Your journey starts here. Your impact starts now.
NFTs popped off like 10 million projects in 45 days. That was a big win. And yeah, man, I mean, my journey's been like, I feel like I learned like 30 skill sets. I can personally do like 30 roles of a team if I wanted to. And I can coach and obviously build a team of people who are able to do those at a really high level because I spent a lot of time acquiring like specific skill sets. And every once in a while, I'll go like hermit mode, 3, 4, 5 months, build something up, and then I pop back out, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know?
What was your biggest product that you think you pushed so far?
My biggest product? My biggest product or like my biggest
Your biggest
revenue,
affiliate. Your biggest affiliate, like that gained you the most money, the most momentum.
The ATM business was pretty big. I don't know if you ever saw, but like I think it was 2018, 2019. We made the ATM business go viral. So like a lot back then.
I do recall that.
Right. So a lot of people were talking about like, or not a lot of people were talking about ATMs, just like an older people business.
Yeah.
Like, people that have been in the game really long. And my business partner came up to me and he's like, yo, I think we should, and we had like ATMs, we were starting to put our money into ATMs and stuff like that. And to me, it's like a boring business model. I was just like, bro, I'll just give you money and then you can go do the ATM stuff, you can do the refill stuff. I'm more focused on this like kind of internet stuff.
Right.
But I'm like, you know, like if you're saying this makes money, I'll give you some money and then like whatever, you know, we'll split this much, whatever. And then he's like, dude, I think we should sell a course on it. And I was like, in my mind, like, bro, nobody's gonna want to buy a course on ATM business. Like, you know, because in my mind, what's sexy is like internet, e-commerce, affiliate marketing. Like, that's sexy, like, you know?
Right.
To me, ATM business, the only cool part about it was like the ability to have cash on hand. And he's like, bro, I think if we just talk about it, like, I think people will be interested. And I was so kind of like against it, just because I felt like it was, in comparison to what I mainly did, I felt like it'd be complex. You know, I didn't feel like it'd be as appealing to the normal average person. And I was like, all right, dude, let's just do one live feed. We could talk about it. He's like, I already have the course ready. He's like, I got the checkout page ready. I was like, we do one live feed. We could talk about it. We'll see how it goes. And then we can kind of drop the link and see what happens. And we did a live feed on my Instagram and we made 30 grand in like an hour.
Wow.
And then I was like, oh shit. So we ran it back the next day, another 30 grand. Ran it back like a week later, another 30 grand. And so now like,
that's crazy.
Yeah, we haven't really done nothing yet. I just went live to like 100, 200 people. Not that many people, like 100, 200 people.
Yeah.
Dude. And you know, like 30 people bought each time. Like, so I'm realizing like that's a high ass conversion rate.
Hell
like,
yeah.
This business model makes sense if people are interested in it. And then people were getting results with it.
$1,000 a course, I'm assuming?
Yeah, $1,000. And people were getting results with it fairly quickly. It was, you know, because it's kind of black and white. It's like, dude, it's not like e-com or like affiliate marketing or
No,
like building
right.
a personal brand. You might need some crazy
You buy a machine,
strategy.
you get a location,
Right.
make a contract.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, it don't work, pick it up, put it somewhere else.
Right.
If it don't work, then pick it up, put it somewhere else until it works. It's not like building a brand where it's like, you gotta have an angle, you gotta have something that people identify with, you
Right.
gotta build a community, so many kind of aspects that are left up to chance and just consistency. And so because we got a lot of results really fast, we were able to obviously leverage the results. And we got really serious with that. We started doing webinars. And then every Thursday, we're doing a live webinar. We're just cranking out 100 grand every Thursday. And then we started doing the recurring. Once we got it down, we just started automating like the evergreen. And then we were making about like, probably let's say we spent $300 a day on ads. We made like 7 to like 13 grand a day.
Wow.
And then on Thursdays, we figured out, we got so creative, bro. We would film the whole webinar. And then every Wednesday night, and this is a secret for people listening. Some people may be like, oh, that's fucked up. But this is a secret for people who run webinars. Is on Thursday, so Wednesday night, technically Thursday at like 12:01 a.m. So my computer said like Thursday. We'd be like, we'd film and be like, look guys, I got the calendar open right now. You guys can see it's Thursday. We are live. We're talking about ATM business today, blah, blah, blah. And then we chop up that intro, and then we edit it to the intro of the webinar. And then we have a couple parts of the webinar where you just kind of like add it back in as like a reminder. And then we run it now as an evergreen live. So when people, and then we just sit on the chat all day on our computers answering questions. So people had questions, we're in the chat like, yo, what's up? And we're actually answering it. But the actual webinar was just the perfect webinar running 5 times a day on repeat.
That's
but
incredible.
It felt live because, well, we actually added live parts to it,
right,
like that same day. And then so we would literally just sit there like on the couch all day, like, you know, just ordering fucking Chipotle and chilling, like watching TV in between webinars, answering questions. And we make like 100, 130 grand, you know?
Did you feel like you had a magic wand to print money?
1,000%.
Because like
1,000%.
what you're describing to me sounds so unheard of for a 19, 20-year-old.
You know, 1,000%. And it's, I used to feel like I was 30 back then, I would say, because like I've done so much and I've also spent so much time on a computer, like 10 hours, 12 hours. Like I'm not like a lazy worker. Like I figure out ways to automate, but like, all I know is the grind. Like I see my dad do charts like 10, 11, 12 p.m., 1 a.m., and then like get a call, you need to be here at the hospital for surgery at 4 a.m., sleep 3 hours and go. Like that was kind of normal for me, you know? So like 4-hour nights of sleep, 5-hour nights of sleep, 6-hour nights of sleep is like after more than 6, I'm like, nah, I'm starting to feel tired now. I feel like, you know, groggy almost because I feel like I slept too much. You know, so like I'm a workhorse for sure, but I'm gonna find the best way to automate it and leverage it very quickly. Like,
what did your dad say to you?
He says I'm like
his 19-year-old make this much money.
You know, I think at first, actually, because my parents still wanted me to go to college, and dropping out was kind of like a really like, they feel like they failed. They felt like they failed. But I didn't also drop out until I got them to kind of co-sign on it. You know, guys, like once I realized, like, dude, I had a mentor tell me, he's like, you get the game. He's like, you get the game. He's like, there's very few people that get the game like I do. Or like, and another one of my mentors was like Jason Stone, millionaire mentor. Like very early on.
Yes.
And they told him and then this other guy named Vincent Ortega, who's like a top affiliate, 8-figure affiliate. They told me, like on my first phone call ever talking to them, like, dude, if you keep at this pace, you'll be at 50K a month for 6 months. You'll be at 100K a month in the next year. You'll be a top guy. Like, you just got to keep going. Like, you know, like school, like, but you're not going to do school, get good grades, and do this at the same time.
Right.
Like, you got to pick and choose.
Right.
And so in my mind, that held so much weight, you know, because I'm like, these guys, I'm like, they're millionaires, they're so successful, blah, blah, blah. And so I started kind of planting the seed in my parents' minds. I knew I had to warm them up to it. And then
Inception.
Yeah, you know. And then they were like, no, like, you know, we, you know, didn't raise you to, you know, to do this and do that. You worked so hard for this, blah, blah, blah. And then eventually, I remember my dad texted me. He's like, look, he's like, I know you're in Madrid. I know that whatever you do, you're gonna be great. You're gonna be great at it, and you're gonna win. And he's like, and I also know that you can come back to school at any time. And then for pre-context, when my dad was 23, he had a $7 million a year e-commerce business during the dot-com boom, but it crashed and burned when the dot-com bubble burst. But he was juggling that while in medical school at the same time.
And so he understood.
Yeah, so he got, you know, and he was like telling me like, he's like, this is not gonna last. He's like, it's gonna crash and burn. Like, you know, and he'd be telling me that from experience, but he also understood like, if I believe it's gonna work, I gotta go in the same way that he did.
Correct.
You know, he decided for himself, his path was when it crashed, like I'm gonna finish medical school, go the slow route, and become successful. He's like, I don't wanna risk that all. I have a kid, I have a wife. You know, I don't have those you know,
luxuries.
Right, you know, so I can go all in. I can commit, I can go 6 months, 10 hours a day. I can isolate myself if I gotta learn something new. I can take off, you know, with a backpack to the other side of the world and just cuss, you know? And so that's what I've allowed myself to do. I think I'll have my first kids and be married probably around like 30 something. And so I see these kind of windows from 18 to 30 is like run it up, go crazy, do everything that you can't, because I don't want to hustle like that my whole life. Like, you know, it's rough, you know, it's tough, you know? And so it kind of actually stayed in the relationship for a while. My parents didn't want to talk to me, or my mom was like the middleman. and then eventually we kind of and also too, like, I don't know if you've seen how my social media is over the years, but it's very like almost in a sense in between like Ty Lopez and Dan Brazilian with my own vibe on it.
Yeah.
18, 19, you're making money. It's just like, I'm just doing what any frat boy with money would do, I feel like, and so he
Party.
so he didn't really agree, obviously, with my lifestyle.
Of course.
And so, so we kind of were not on good terms for a while.
So let me get a little personal with you.
Yeah.
Do you think there was some jealousy there?
I do. But I think I realized that in hindsight, like maybe
The fact that you made it and he didn't.
Mm-hmm. I think I actually realized that maybe like 6 months ago, like clearly.
Yeah.
Back then I might have said like, oh, they just, because they didn't have like, but it was more, that was coming from a place of arrogance, not actually really looking at the psychological angle of why people feel certain ways.
Yeah.
Over time, I think I've realized that because I'm like, I don't think it's a conscious thing. I think it's unconscious.
Right,
like,
for sure. Yeah.
But then even my mom confirmed it, not even maybe a month ago, like, because we were talking about like how things were like rough during certain times. Because I also believe too, as if you're a kid or you're young or a lot of people maybe in college or you might still live with their parents or whatever, I do think you need to like break away and go like, essentially have your, what do they call it when it's like, a child becomes like a man in certain cultures. Like you have to go
like
through
like a bar mitzvah, they call it in the Jewish religion, or the Native Americans, right? They go out in the wild. And,
right.
Yeah,
And that's like it's like your rite of passage.
Exactly.
And so I do think in a way that you'll never be successful until you fully break that like child parent frame.
I agree.
To get into your own like frame, your own masculinity, or
figure out who you are.
Right.
Yeah.
And then kind of come back, but you're coming back from a place of like closer to equals, or like, hey, we're both adults, we're both kind of seeing the world the same way. Because otherwise, I even noticed this when I see my parents and visit every once in a while, it's like, I almost will slip back into a kid frame.
Right.
Like,
oh, of course.
You want dinner, this is that. And then all of a sudden I will just not feel like as much in my like, let's go get it thing. Well, I got to go to bed a little early because my parents are sleeping and I don't want to be up all night while they're here. And then I'm like, wait, no, I need to fucking work. So I think that you do need to break away to really be able to like take off. And I don't think it's a bad thing. I just think that's human nature.
Yeah.
Like I don't take nothing personal. Like you can fucking stab me and I'll be like, well, that's human nature. You thought for whatever reason I was a threat. Like that doesn't mean I'm not gonna punch you back in the face, but I'm not gonna like hold it against you. Like this guy is an evil guy. Maybe if you're a psychopath, but then even then I'm like, still, that's the nature of a psychopath. So I try to like really pull myself out of being emotionally attached to things and just be more emotionally invested into my goals.
Right.
And then just kind of like understand how whatever people perceive of me and how I am in their life, if I break that frame, they're gonna feel some type of way.
For sure.
It's just because that now it has to alter their behavior just because I'm somebody new. They can't talk to me like the same guy I was in the past because I'm not that same guy. And so I think that's just with anybody in any relationship, whether it's dating, whether it's your friends from back home where you grew up in your hometown. People are like, oh, you switched up, you changed up. And it's like, that's the whole point, fool.
Right.
Like,
you should go do the same.
Point. Exactly.
It's the hardest for those people to get.
Right.
The ones that you grew up with, the ones around you, your family, they're the ones that don't want to see you succeed.
Right. 100%. It makes a lot of people.
They want you to be good, but not better than them.
Right. Like just good enough to like brag about to other people.
Right.
Where it increases their status.
Right.
But not where they tell other people are like, wait, well, how come you're not with them?
Right.
How come you're not doing that?
Right.
Or like, what's the difference between them and you? I don't get it. Like, or like, why aren't you with them right now? Like, so they want to, it's just enough to boost their status, but if it lowers their status, it's a no-go.
Exactly.
And so, I mean, I've over the years, every year, 2 years, I'm in an entirely different social circle. And I'm not like, people are like, oh, how do you cut people off? I'm not cutting people off. I'm just going up, and I'm just, passing by people on my way up. I don't even see it as I'm like solidifying myself here. I see every stage as like just a stage I'm passing through. Like, we'll still have relationships, we still be cordial, we still have a network where we can provide value to each other.
Right.
But it's like my energy and time is like up.
You're vibrating differently.
Right.
So you attract other vibrational people at that frequency.
Right. It's just different velocities, really.
Exactly.
Moving at a faster rate in a different area, different place. And I think a lot of people, they're so obsessed with the past and they hold on to the past.
So stuck.
Right, the good and the bad.
Yes.
Where I'm like, dude, I just got to drop it all. Like my best days have not came yet. You know, my best days are still ahead of me. And even when I have those best days, then the best days are still after that. Like, you know, like I hope to God, I pray to God, and I know for certain that when I'm 89 years old, I'm still gonna be saying the same thing. Like, yo, the best days still, bro, we're 95, but best days, you know?
We're going to 200.
Yeah, you know, we're halfway there, you know? And that's just my mentality. Sometimes my parents or other people may be like, that's not reality though. And I'm like, but it's a better reality for me to operate like. Like, you know, whether it's true or not, whether it manifests like that or not.
It may not be their reality.
Right.
But it could be yours.
Right, 1,000%.
Because you choose it to.
Right, 1,000%. You know, and so I always say, I'm like, it may not be reality or realistic or like that's not how the world works, but I'm like, I haven't been proven wrong yet.
Bro, I hate that phrase.
Yeah.
That's not how the world, bro, the world works how you want it to work.
Right, 1,000%. I agree.
You know, if you stuck on that frame, then that's how the world works.
Right.
If you can or if you can't, you're right.
1,000%. You know, one of the things I talk about a lot, and I wrote a book on it, it's called The Art of Frame Control. And like frame control is essentially like how you're controlling the frames, how you're reframing things, upframing things, deframing things. Like a lot of people, they'll see something and like, they'll be like, oh, this sucks so bad because of this. Or I'll give you a perfect example. I was with a buddy a couple weeks ago. I was helping him during his launch. He was over at my house. And he got like a brain scan. And it showed like certain parts of his brain have like more trauma, et cetera. But it's also, the doctor told him like, this is why you're hyper successful because of how you know, are aware and things like that. And so a lot of times the
good with the bad, right?
Right. And so he'll kind of tell me certain things and he'll go into like the past or like certain traumas. And in a way that almost to me feels like I want you to feel bad for me. Like, this is how bad my life is. Like, if I were to say something that happened that sucked, I might say it from a neutral point of view, but then he'd be like, well, let me tell you what happened to me. And it feels like it's almost trying to one up pains.
Right, competition, yeah.
Right, when I don't even see my pain as like a bad thing. I'm just like, this is just an event that happened. It's like watching a movie.
Right.
Like, this is just what happened in the movie. The car blew up and then the next scene happened.
Right.
That's how I view my past. And he'll see it more identifying with it. But I called him out. I'm like, bro.
Got it.
Don't talk to me like this is a bad thing because you already know this is what makes you hyper successful. You already know that this is when, you know, fast forward in the future, 10 years, when you're worth 100 million, 200 million, whatever, and you're on stage talking about your story, you're gonna be telling people this is why you became who you are.
Right.
So don't tell me it right now in a way to make me feel like you're like at a
or
disadvantage.
Victim. Right.
Right. You know, because you already know this is your edge. So I'm like, and I'm not falling for it. And I know you're not falling for it. So I'm like, the trick is up, bro. Like, there's no reason to talk about that because you already know how you're talking about the future. So talk about it like that now, bro. I'm like, talk about it like that right now.
You're a good mentor.
You know?
You're a good coach.
And a lot of my homies, they'll come to me even like coaching like that. And my
That's
mom
dope.
will say that. But it's like, I'm just obsessed with like understanding human potential, you know? And I think because I came automatically successful straight out of like high school and I didn't get my ass kicked until I was maybe like 22 when I lost millions, like lawsuit, business partner, stolen, the whole 9 yards, whatever, that I realized when I had to rebuild my mindset. First, I didn't even realize what the fuck my mindset was because it was just me. Like, you know, I was just automatically successful. I didn't really understand, like, these were the things that I was doing unconsciously.
Right.
And so I had to, over time, maybe about 2.5 years, rebuild that mentality, but consciously now. Like, how did I think? What made me get in flow? What were the things that made me feel insecure or, you know, the reasons why I wasn't able to do it here, but here I was able to do it with less resources. And once I learned that, now it's just like, you know, it's just sharing the story. When I see other people, I gained an emotional awareness that I did not have before. Before, I could be successful, but my ability to teach someone else to be successful was only if they got it or they didn't.
Got it.
Now I can look at somebody and be like, this is that, boom, boom, boom. And it's like,
here you go.
clicks, you know?
Yeah.
And I can also communicate it to them in a way, whereas before I'm like, you should do this, you should do that. And people are like, nah. I'm like, nah, bro, if you did, like, and I created a lot of reactance and a lot of resistance. Now I know how to slip stories in, reframe things, tell stories, paint pictures, ask questions. I studied a lot of like NLP, hypnosis, got certified in NLP. So now I know how to actually get the message through.
Yes.
Like, you know, which is a big deal. Because before I'm like, I could tell, I knew it, but I couldn't get it through, you know? And it also, that helps a lot with my own mind, you know, like being able to ask myself the right questions and break patterns that are not healthy really, really fast, you know?
What do you think were the advantages to the fast climb, then the decline to climb again.
The advantages.
What do you think were the benefits of that? Do you think that you would have benefited from going another path, or do you like that path?
I love that path. I love my life. I love that path. You know, I would not take back a single thing. I don't regret a single thing. Now, if I were to go back hypothetically, obviously in that moment, and even still now, I'd be like, I wish you would go faster. But I understand the value and how everything played a role into my life.
What would you have done differently, looking back now?
Man, even if I say what I would do differently back then, right now, it's actually probably what I should do right now that I'm even not doing, which is like I would document more in a organized, hyper-organized way of like.
As a podcaster, I needed a place to share my voice and hear other stories. That's how Forge Studios was born. A place created not just for me, but for everyone searching for something more. An environment where as soon as you walk in, you feel the energy and you feel welcomed. Where being seen and heard is part of the experience. A place for entrepreneurs to share their journey, for creators to bring ideas to life, for businesses to grow authentically. A space that values mental health, encourages real conversations, and supports those who turns ideas into impact. Here at the Forge Studios, creativity, culture, and purpose aligns and comes together to help you create something greater. A place where we leave the filters behind and we start expressing ourselves for real. The Forge Studio. Your journey starts here. Your impact starts now.
All the little things so I can go back later and kind of like identify patterns quicker. I think I have built the skill set, you know, and it's probably my ego and like rationalization, but I have built the skill set of hyper identifying patterns and being able to categorize it in my mind and like learn very quickly. But I think like if I were to have them all on paper, like write them down, I'd be a better teacher, better educator, and I also would probably learn even quicker and probably get to my goals even faster, you know? And so that's probably the only thing I'd really do going back. And then I think I would also...
You've been a great doctor.
Yeah, probably, maybe. You know, I think sometimes I look at, when I see the pictures of surgeries and shit, I might get a little, you know, I train my brain to look at it and be like, well, that's what I look like inside. So I've been working on that every time I do see a picture like that. But, you know, lawyer, I think I would crush for sure.
100%.
But I think the biggest benefit, actually, or the biggest thing that I would go back if I could do something different is I've realized that life has cycles. And like, you'll have these wins and then you have these losses.
Yeah.
And it's also not one-dimensional. So you may win really big in business, and then you may experience a family tragedy or a you know, an injury, or you know, COVID may hit. Like those things happen.
Right.
And before, I think because I was always reframing things, like I would reframe those things as just a part of the story. And so I only saw wins. And so even though it's good to reframe things positively, there was parts that were like, I guess you could say like loose ends that I didn't necessarily tie up, because I'm like, oh, he screwed us over. We won't have to deal with the lawsuit. We don't want the negative energy. Let's just keep moving forward and stay focused, positive energy. But what that did unconsciously is that allowed me to be the type of guy that can get screwed over again in the future. Like, because I didn't have that boundary set and I didn't have that principle set.
I understand what you're saying.
Right, and so I became almost blindsided. And so enough of those stack up, your momentum is going to slow down.
Right.
You know, if you're moving
it's fast, it's going to halt you, yeah.
And you're hard hitting, you can go over a couple little ones, but eventually it stacks up and it's too heavy.
Yeah.
And it's going to swing you back. And so I think I realized that there's this natural pendulum that happens in life, whether self-created or external environment, you know, forced upon. And so it's better, instead of just always thinking like up, and like, you know, go faster, go bigger, scale quicker, take the risk, to actually consciously take a step to slow down and reassess and grab counsel from other people around you that have been in your position before, or that are, you know, where you want to be.
Take that temperature.
Right, and be like, hey, I'm moving really fast right now. I've had a lot of wins. I'm making more money than I've ever made. My life is absolutely amazing. I would have never thought I'd live like this. I want to like re-ground myself before the world grounds me. You know, I want to like.
That's mature as fuck.
I want to humble myself before the world humbles me.
Right.
Because that happens. I mean, dude, it's a classic textbook play. Entrepreneurs like,
oh yeah,
I made all this money, lost it all, and then I made so many again. lost it all, and now I'm really rich. And it's like, it doesn't have to be that way.
No.
But because human nature makes it that way, and the world's just natural patterns.
And sometimes we get stuck to that cycle.
Right.
The high, the low, the high, the low.
Right.
You know?
Right. And so I think it's better, because I've had some like $0 months before, negative months before, to like, boom, millions. You know? And so I think, which is amazing, but looking back, I'm like, I think it's way better to like incrementally scale at enough that's like not past our goals. Like if I want to do 10% this month, maybe I do like 9.8. And you're like, all right, next month I'm gonna get it, but my goal's now 11, and maybe hit like 10.2. I think it's better to be like just right under your goals all the time. Like one of the quotes I heard that changed how I think is like, the worst life to live would be a life that you achieve all your goals.
So you're bored.
Right.
What do I do now?
You haven't thought big enough, you know? And so I think a lot of people, you see that, they sell a company or whatever, and like, they're like, I made all this money, now I don't care about this, I don't care about that. And it's like, that's actually sad. It's not, I don't feel sad for them, because that's their choices, but that's sad in general. I don't want to live that reality.
They attach their lives to that company, right? And once that's over, they can't, they lost their identity.
Exactly. And so I think it's better to like, to kind of like, there's almost like a sweet spot. It's like a little pocket. And if you can set your goals just this much, a little bit above your potential, while genuinely pushing yourself, while also still having the balance to build your family, have friendships, and do the things that make you feel like you outside of work. If you can stay in that pocket, I think you'll continuously over time have higher levels of success. You'll feel better, and you'll constantly feel that bliss of life that feels like flow state. You know, you won't be having like, now you're still gonna have hard times and stuff to go through shit, but how you'll generally feel overall about life is gonna be like an upwards growth experience and mentality, and your emotions, you'll just be naturally balanced. I feel like that's how humans like in the past were, because we had to fight to get our food, like build our own shit. We have so much abundance now today, it's very easily to like offset the natural ways that we're wired.
Bro, you're electric.
Thank you.
You really are.
Thank you, bro.
I feel your energy, every word that comes out of your mouth.
Thank you, my guy. I appreciate that.
You're a great speaker.
Thank you.
You really are.
Thank you.
You really know how to convey the message that's in your head. That's a real talent.
Thank you. You know, it's funny. I always say, like, because sometimes my parents would be like, and some other people at like events would be like, you talk so fast, slow down. And it's like, I feel like the reason I talk so fast is because I'm not really memorizing things, like things I read in a book, or like, it's just like I have a certain set of principles that I live by, and that I'm always constantly refining in my mind. And like, even on a flight, especially on flights, in car rides, I'll be like, what was said to me this week that I don't like, or that, I don't align with? Like, I'm like, okay, my Uber driver said, like, oh, the world's like this, and the politics are like this, and, it should be like this, all these greedy billionaires, da-da-da. And I'm just like, oh, okay. And I'm not really necessarily saying, oh, I disagree with you. I'm just by myself like, oh, okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. And I'll go back in my mind and be like, yeah, I don't agree with that. I consciously reject that, and that's not my reality. And so I'll like make sure no dirt gets into my mind, because enough of those over time, it's like driving a car, and then those little bugs hit your windshield. If you don't wipe it, you don't clean it, over time, you will not be able to see, and you're gonna crash and you're gonna die. Or you're gonna have to start looking through your back windows now, because those are the only ones clear, and you're not going back there.
Right.
And so I'm always like clearing my window, making sure I keep it clean the best as possible, but then also enhancing it, adding AI features, adding the little speedometer that shows me how fast I'm going. And I think because I'm doing that, like there's internally within every cell of my body and my spirit, and like just me as a whole, like I'm being the best that I can possibly be right now, while also being the worst that I'll ever be in this moment. And so because of that, like whenever I go to talk, like my brother's like, oh, we got a podcast. I'm like, all right, for sure. Like you tell me I got 20 podcasts, 20 videos, and like the second before it starts, I'm like, what are we talking about? Like, and I'll just go, because like, and if I don't know, I'm like, I don't know. Like, that's not my expertise. I don't know.
Right.
And so I can stay on what I know very, very well with conviction, and I can say with conviction, I don't fucking know if I don't fucking know. If you're at an event, you're like, where should I invest my money in real estate, title, property? I'm like, that's that fucking guy.
Right. That's the real estate guy.
He's the real estate guru. I'm the fucking marketer, bro. And so because of that, I think there's a lot of internal alignment.
Yeah.
And I also think because you live like that as well, that you're able to recognize that.
100%.
Because like a lot of, like I've only noticed and met a few people who have that same vibe, and I can see very quickly, I'm like, Oh, we can go back and forth. We could go all day.
100%.
People around us would be like, yo, these guys are nuts. Versus like somebody's like, what's the 3 tips of success? And they're like, well, number 1, it's, you got to have the right mindset. Or number 2, you got to have, whatever the hell people say based on the last book they just read.
All the bullshit, right?
And it's like, you could tell when somebody's actually living what they say.
Yes.
Like, I don't even know what the fuck I said this entire podcast. The second I say it.
Oh, I know.
It's already, from my mind, it's already gone. Because it's just like, it's coming straight through the fucking energy field,
It's flowing through you.
Right, exactly. And that's how you gotta live life, man.
Yeah, man.
Because that's the only way you'll win. Anything else is being less of what you were designed and put here to be on earth.
Correct.
And you're also blocking your own blessings because in a perfect vibrational universe, you can only be your perfect vibrational perfectly. And so if you're not your perfect vibration perfectly, you're automatically imperfectly aligning with the universe. And so everything you think you're doing correctly, you're not by default because you're not being what you actually are.
I think you just defined authenticity.
That makes a lot of sense. And humans, man, are the only creature on earth that are not exactly what they are and can't exactly be what they are. Like a pig is just a pig. Like a pig does what pigs do naturally. A fish just does what that fish do. This shark does what that shark does. Humans can go stand like a lamp for 3 hours because they saw a video on TikTok that says it's smart.
Right.
And if they decide to believe it and do it, they can now not be a human. They are a human in a sense, but they're a human doing non-natural things. They're now using their ability to create to do something that's not helping them get to where they want to go.
Very interesting
And
point.
so, I try to live my life as almost, in a sense, the most animalistic while also spiritual in a sense. I feel like they almost merge. The most spiritual version of you, the most animalistic version of you,
yes,
both aren't overthinking what the fuck they should do. They're just being what they are.
That was deep as fuck. That was deep as fuck, and I understood every word of it. That was really good.
Thank you, brother.
I like that, bro. What's next for you?
Man, I've been working on some really dope shit over the last about 6 months. I built together a team of researchers, VAs, and we compiled a database of over 1 million different pages. So I think it's 67, 70,000 different PDFs with 1 million different pages of persuasive marketing, sales copy, influence, to even on the dark sides, brainwashing, CIA leaked documents, cults,
wow.
Everything you could possibly think of. It'd be really hard for you to go on the internet and try to find some social media growth, marketing material, viral material, copywriting material, persuasion material, influence material, and that not be in the database. You go to page 10 on Google, page 10 on Bing, page 10 on Google Images, and then click on one of the links that the images are linked to. There's a pretty high chance that it's in this database.
Wow.
And so the database alone, when I got quoted on being able to host it from a couple different online providers, is nearly 20,000 to 40,000 a month just for as many characters are in that database just to host it.
That's
just
crazy.
To host it. And so we built essentially a copywriting
What an
tool.
idea.
I know. So my mind, bro, I got
what
tired
an
of all this.
idea.
It's called Persuasions AI. So we're about to launch it. We're gearing up to do an affiliate launch. And so I actually was just so tired of building out offers and writing copy and doing all the marketing over the years.
Yeah, I could imagine. Probably done so much of it.
Right. So I'm like, let me build a tool that can help me just do this shit automatically, following proven frameworks. And then my ADHD was just like, bro, just take it all the way. And, so that's what we started doing. And so we have every single newest AI model built on top of it. So from ChatGPT to Google Gemini to DeepSeek, Claude, Anthropic, what else is in there? I think those are all the main ones, but then every kind of variation of it.
Yeah.
Plus internet browser access, so it can pull live data. So I can be search something up. I'm say I want to sell something to Leo, find out what he's about, and write me a personalized email to pitch him. And it'll scour all your Instagram posts, all your captions, and then it'll be able to reference those points using persuasion frameworks.
Nuts.
And be remember that one time in 2018 when you were talking about da. But then in 2020 you finally achieved that goal. This is similar to that. So it can highly personalize the copy. And then I have
and that's how you reach $1 billion.
Yeah, no, 1,000%.
That is how you reach $1 billion.
1,000%. Yeah, bro.
Legitimately.
It's honestly, bro, it's scary good. It's so good. And not only that, but everything passes as humanized writing. because the way it's trained is it's not allowed to create anything new. It needs to pull out certain frameworks that already exist and swap out words, swap out phrases, and then like re-merge them together. And like, so it can only follow proven frameworks. And so if you run it through like, does this sound like AI? It's not gonna sound like AI. And so, yeah, it's been kind of like allowing a small group of people beta testing it recently.
That's mind-blowing, bro.
I'll let you try it before
I would love to, bro.
Yeah, it's pretty sick.
That's
incredible.
So
I think that alone, because I think there's a gap right now. I think the gap is that AI is advancing so fast.
So fast.
And you have a lot of services that people charge a lot of money for that AI can actually do entirely. Build websites. I can clone any website in less than 5 minutes right now from my phone. Like entirely, perfectly, no flaws, and then just boom, take persuasions, write all the copy for it.
Using what, Bolt?
No, there's a bunch of different apps. The one I use is Poe.com.
I've heard of Poe, yeah.
So yeah, Poe.com, I can just literally, boom, done, 5 minutes. And now I got Dan Locke's website, I got Grant Cardone's website, I got their entire funnel. And so that's possible now. Just not even a year ago, I paid $6,000 for a funnel, And so now the ability is people who have no skill sets whatsoever can go, and because most people don't know that yet, right? They don't know they can do that. And even if they do know they can do it, they don't know how to do it.
Right, the masses have no idea.
Right.
It's only if you're in it.
And so I think that gap is that you can have the ability to DM, to email 1,000 people a day using AI, agents, persuasions for the copywriting, and literally make with like little to zero risk, little to zero money or investment, or really even time or brain energy, just figuring out what that exact perfect prompt is, and just running it on repeat. You can use multiple devices, boom, 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 boom. You can crank, if you really wanted to, you can crank out 30 to 40 websites with probably like 2 or 3 laptops at the same time at a level for that. If you were to go pay somebody, hey, I want a website like this, they're gonna say 15 grand, 20 grand. And you can crank that out in less than an hour with a highly personalized email or DM or whatever, send it to the motherfucker. Like they didn't even pay you yet. Send it to the motherfucker. It's better than they have right now, or they have nothing right now. And like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of every 10 can see it, and they'll be like, yo, how do I get this?
That's nuts.
Oh, bro, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, 1,000, $500. It don't matter. You built that shit pretty much, for $1 in credits with AI, and it took you absolutely no brain power besides knowing the prompt, knowing the systems, and then just doing the actual work, like reaching out or having a VA do it. And so I think that gap right there alone is number one, a huge teacher, guru, educational gap, because nobody's talking about that. The people who are talking about AI are like, all right, guys, today we're talking about the newest AI, GPT, DeepSeek, boring thing that is and like using all these terms.
Love that tone of voice, too.
That
was
so
great. That was so
boring.
mono, yeah.
They're not exciting. They're boring. And the jargon they use is so complex. The normal person is like, yeah, this AI shit's too much for me.
You got to be a tech to get it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a gap for people who can just be like, yo, let me just show you how it's done. Super easy, super simple. Just take this prompt, copy, paste it, go here, boom, boom, bam. And like in an exciting way that makes it sound fun. So now you have the income opportunity and the ability to blow up a personal brand by leveraging that gap for probably like 2 years before other people catch on.
Bro, when's this coming out?
Well, it's out now. So now we're just gearing up for a big affiliate launch. I think the best number one way we're gonna be releasing it early is actually pitching it to copywriters. I'm actually linking up with my buddy Christian, the copywriter. He does copywriting for like Tony Robbins, like Alex Hormozy, out here in Florida this week. And the thing is, like, these copywriters will take 30, 40 minutes to write a sales letter or a funnel. And it'll be good, but it takes them that long. And they're also probably they're probably doing the same research that the AI is already doing in the back end.
Right.
To make sure it all
to a lesser degree, probably.
Right. And then they got to do the market research on the customer, et cetera. My tool, you put in one sentence about the customer, and then it will give you like a 3-page report on their biggest pain points, the thoughts that they think in their mind that they don't share, the unconscious reason behind it, the conscious thing they think it actually is that it's actually not.
That's fucking
like it goes
nuts.
so deep. They're onto psychographics, all this stuff. Then you take that and it starts writing the offer, creating the offer, creates the bonuses, pumps out the whole thing, absolutely flawless, with about 5 minutes, 2-3 sentences of you confirming, saying yes, yes, yes. You can have about 40 pages of copy, all humanized, pumped out. And so when I was thinking of selling the software at first, I'm like, the thing is, right, most people are not paying $200 a month for ChatGPT. It's valuable, but most people don't see that much value in it for just everyday stuff. They might pay the 20. So I'm thinking the people that will see the most value for this tool right now are the people who are selling copywriting services for $5,000 a month, $10,000 a month, $20,000 a month, and want to just speed up the time and how many people they can reach out to. So I want to kind of juice it first, like juice that niche first, if that makes sense, before kind of getting it into the hands of like small business owners, marketers, internet marketers, besides obviously my close friends who are like beta testing it. But I think that's kind of my strategy behind it, is like, I gotta like maximize the amount of revenue and amount of impact per person sold before just like going to the masses, because the masses won't understand the value of how powerful it actually is, you know?
So listening to your whole story, listening to how you think and how you process and how you've executed and your family history, it makes total sense that you built this. Makes total sense. You were talking about pattern recognition.
Right.
It's exactly what this is.
Exactly.
You literally took your entire experience and put it into a software.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's incredible.
As a podcaster, I needed a place to share my voice and hear other stories. That's how Forge Studios was born. A place created not just for me, but for everyone searching for something more. An environment where as soon as you walk in, you feel the energy and you feel welcomed. Where being seen and heard is part of the experience. A place for entrepreneurs to share their journey, for creators to bring ideas to life, for businesses to grow authentically. A space that values mental health, encourages real conversations, and supports those who turns ideas into impact. Here at the Forge Studios, creativity, culture, and purpose aligns and comes together to help you create something greater. A place where we leave the filters behind and we start expressing ourselves for real. The Forge Studio. Your journey starts here. Your impact starts now.
You know, I think you'll be surprised. You'll see it. I'll let you mess around with it. We'll give you a free account. And you're just like, to really get the value out of it, you're gonna, because there's all these different AI models on it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of different prompts, and then they all have like almost different personalities.
Right.
So one has like a Russell Brunson personality, one has a Dan Kennedy personality, one has an Alex Hormozi personality, one has a Tate personality. So I have like different kind of vibes. They write kind of different ways. And then some have internet access, some don't have internet access. So like they all, the amount of power and diversity of how you can really like customize it, you'll be able to find like the perfect way, like, oh, this specific model, this personality is like my jam. Like this writes how I want it to write. And two, I tell my buddies, I'm like, dude, just give me some copy that you have, or like give me some transcripts, and I'll just add it to the database and like, you know, tag your name into it. And then you literally just say it, right? Like Leo, you know? So I put a bunch of my buddies' YouTube videos in there. You know, Alex Hormozi's entire channel's in there, word for word. Iman Ghatzi, word for word.
Wow.
Like all Tate, word for word. And so I'm like, my buddy Daniel, I put his whole channel in there. I don't know if you're Daniel G.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's like
yeah.
my best friend. We go like way back.
That's awesome.
And
good dude, amazing dude.
yeah, no, he's clean. He's amazing. And so he called me recently. He's like, I want to start doing like YouTube stuff. He's like, Steve said you got this persuasions tool. He's like, how do I get it to help me with like YouTube, like, you know, what's it called? Channel titles, descriptions, and yada, yada.
Yeah.
And I'm like, bro, it's trained on every one of your captions already. It's trained on all your videos already. I might just be like, write like Daniel G, and you know, this is that. And his whole team's on it. We're on FaceTime. His whole team's on it, and I just hear them all like, oh shit, what the, bro? And like, they're all just like kind of geeking out on it. And they're like, bro, we spent like 20 minutes trying to come up with the title for this one YouTube video, and it's just pumped out like 50 of them. Like, and they're all reading it all out loud, and
That's
like, the anti-sales trick, that, you know, and they're just going nuts.
Yeah.
And then I'm in his like little channel where he sends out notifications to his community. I just see the next one like send out, and it's like, you know, going live in 30 minutes, and I could just tell instantly it's written by Persuasions, you know. And I'm like, hey, I'm gonna use Persuasions for that, huh? He's like, oh shit. He's like, how do you know?
I just saw him too. He was at a Andy Elliott event in Miami a couple months ago.
Right. Yeah.
He killed it on stage.
Both of those two biggest sales gurus right now, really.
Yes.
You know? They both got electrifying energy. That's actually how me and Daniel met on a panel. We were doing a panel, and he was speaking similar to the way how you would describe how I speak. It's how I describe how he speaks.
Yes, he's also electric.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I got the mic, and it was me, Jason Stone, Daniel G, and a couple other guys. And when I got the mic, I was like, yo, I don't know who the fuck this guy over here is. And he was not big back then. He had like 10K followers. And I was like, I fucking like this guy. And I'm thinking people are gonna laugh. I'm thinking it's funny because I just like broke the pattern of the entire event. And everyone's just like 300 people looking at me like, like, you know, I'm like, you guys fucking suck. You know, and then I just gotta just start going on answering the questions. But that's how we got connected. And then like, you know, he ended up moving in with me a couple months later, and he went on a run, and you know,
that's awesome.
Started growing his followers. But it's like that same just authenticity, that realism. And Andy Elliott has that same vibe. Just very like,
he's a shark.
You know, yeah, you know, I love it.
And I think he's doing an event with Jay, July 12th.
With Jay who?
Jay Monopoly.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No way. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, in New York, I believe.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jay's my guy too. We go way back.
He's a good dude.
Yeah.
I've known Jay since he was 9 years old.
Really?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
Damn, that's crazy, actually.
I know Jay's whole family. I've been to his mom's wedding.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's super sick, actually. Hell yeah.
Yeah. It's good dude. That's actually how I met your brother.
That makes a lot more sense now.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Jay used to tell me he used to watch my stuff like when I was like kind of first going crazy online, and like that was like, and the buddy I was just telling you about recently too, like I got connected with him through Jay, but he was saying like, you know, that kind of made them open their eyes, like, yo, you could be young and like do this kind of like this thing, cause
yes,
man, 2015, 16, 17, like it was just kind of early. You got Ty, you had Grant, you had who else? Gary V.
Right.
But like there wasn't really much other individuals who were going online.
No, there wasn't.
Like COVID really like brought like
changed everything, bro.
Right.
Really did.
You know, like, and it's kind of interesting because during COVID time was when I was in my rebuild phase. I was learning software, but I was also going through my own personal and spiritual, like, you know, just development.
Yeah.
And I actually was living up in the mountains up in Big Bear by myself and wasn't even using my phone besides like building these software companies back in like 2020.
Wow.
I remember at the time, you know, I was going through darker times and I felt hurt and I felt like, you know, betrayed by some people that I worked with. And I remember when COVID cracked down, I was like, now everybody else is gonna be lonely like me, like, you know, because I'm living up here in this mountain by
Misery
myself.
loves company.
You know, and it's funny, but looking back, because then when I got back into the game, it was like, bam, like all these fucking other personal brands, and it was kind of weird for me because I went literally like 2 years no social media.
Wow.
You know, so I came back.
Ghost.
Right. I also never saw nobody with a mask, maybe besides more than 3 times. So I came back, life was just different. I was like, what the fuck happened? You know? And but I was able to build momentum quick. Honestly, got back in the game like I never left because of the way I built my brand before. Right. So that's actually another piece of advice I would give for people watching right now is like build your brand. A lot of people are scared. They have reasons why they don't want to. But I'm telling you right now, when you build your brand online, you're essentially like you're sticking out your hand to people, saying like, here, I will help you. Like, here, come with me. And that hand will come back 1,000 times, 10,000 times, 100,000 times back later when you need it, or even when you don't need it. Ideally, you don't ever have to need it, and it's there just as like an abundance or as a, you know, as a luxury.
Right.
But like when you help a lot of people, when you change their life, you can disappear or something can happen or whatever can happen. You can be in tight financial situations. And then a year later, 2 years later, 3 years later, some of those people you helped maybe became millionaires or, you know, highly successful or highly connected or
they'll think
you know,
of you.
Whatever, you know? And they'll reach out to you. You don't even have to really reach out to them. And they'll be like, yo, like, let me help you. Or like, yo, like, let's do this. Or like, yo, let's do that. And so I was actually surprised when I took a break off social media and came back, like how many, like dozens and dozens and dozens of people now who are like, dude, when I used to watch you, I was just a kid in my mom's basement or whatever. And they're like, nah, I made my first $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, $4 million. They're like,
wow.
you could come stay with me or let's launch a business or I'll promote your products. Or like, it was just like, it's even to this day, like it's just endless amounts of people that are like willing to want to work with me, do things for me, vouch for me, whatever.
That's
and
crazy.
I've never even, that was a consequence that I never thought about when I first started because I was genuinely just documenting my journey. And my science and logic behind it was like, I just knew in my mind, I'm gonna be successful one day no matter what. So like, even if my shit looks stupid now or I suck now, because I will be successful then, like it will just all be funny to everybody else. Like, you know, cause like I'll get to that level and I'm like, you guys are making fun of me here or then, or nobody said this about me here or then, but look, I'm actually here now. So I'm like, just isn't that funny? You know? And so because I just know that and I made that up in my mind, I'm willing to like go through the parts that are uncomfortable now. I'm willing to like, oh, but what if I don't look good on camera or if I sound like this or I'm not that confident? Like I just will go through it because I'm like, it's gonna be funny later because I'm gonna eventually get a win.
Exactly.
You know?
It's a great mindset.
Yeah.
How does it feel to know that you've impacted so many lives?
It's an interesting question. You know, I think at one point it almost became numb to it because I would receive thousands of DMs a week. People, I made 10,000, made 100,000, I became a millionaire, I made my first $100 online, whatever. And at that point, my mind almost, it just turned it to a number, like a stat. Like, this is how I know I'm on my path moving forward, is by how many people are telling me what I'm teaching is working. And so, like, it didn't become like, I didn't really realize, like, this is a whole ass family that this impacted, and these are the ways. It was just like, this is just another number that's showing me that I'm growing in my journey.
Right.
And so it was still a lot of self-centered focus. So even though I was helping people, it was still like the focus was on me, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then only in hindsight, looking back, did I realize, like, when I met people in real life or whatever, people like crying and telling me, like, whoa, this is like, just even this one person's a big deal. And that really clicked to me, and I was realizing how my mind is, this is with anything in life, humans, you do something long enough, your brain's just going to turn into a pattern.
Yeah.
And, you start to almost take the humanness out of it a
Yep.
bit. Like that's what AI is happening right now. And so now I see it obviously a lot differently, but it's never really been like, I guess in a sense it actually has been the reason, but it's only because I was inspired by somebody. I told you back in middle school, I was inspired by somebody, that I just feel like I have to kind of do the same thing, probably unconsciously, because my identity is wrapped up in the fact that I was inspired by somebody. And consciously, because I feel like I have a moral obligation, because if it wasn't for them making that decision, then I wouldn't be able to even have the opportunity to live this life or do the things I'm doing right now.
Right.
So I think it's just kind of more like a duty, and it's cool, it's amazing. I think I saw a quote one time when I was kind of in more of an afraid state to get back out into the game, putting out social media. And it was on a wall. And I was just procrastinating on putting out content, procrastinating on going live or doing webinars or whatever. And the quote said, like, if your heart is in service, you'll never be nervous. And it just like struck me so hard, where I was like thinking like, damn, this whole time I'm thinking about how I'd be perceived, or like if I took a break from social media for a while, what are they gonna think when I come back, or like da. And then I'm like, dude, if I just switch my entire focus onto like, how can I genuinely help this person? You don't even have enough energy or time to even think about what do they think about me.
Right.
Because you're thinking like, I want to help them figure out how to think about themselves.
Right.
Like there's no room, there's no space, And so even I see speakers sometimes and like, I'm nervous. I speak in front of big crowds all the time, but I'm still nervous. And I'm like, because you're still thinking about you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and that's why I told you, like, I'm like, if I gotta hop on a podcast, hop on a video, I'm like, you could tell me within 30 seconds, yo, hey, we're gonna do a podcast in 30 seconds. Now I'm like, all right, I'll look presentable, put a hat on, put a hoodie on, and I'm just like, grab some water, and I'm like, all right, yo.
Let's go.
I'm like, yo, what are we talking about? Like,
Yeah.
all right, for sure. And so, and that's because I'm there, I'm genuinely trying to, because I'm aware that I have a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge, and I'm also aware that I should probably be putting it out 1,000 times more than I even am, And so when I have the opportunity, I'm like, let me just pour my heart and soul, and I also know that I will feel better later today. I'll have that dopamine rush, I'll feel good,
Right.
And I'll also feel tired at the end of the day because I poured my heart and soul. If I don't do this, or if I don't work out, if I don't speak, I don't teach, by the end of the day, I'm like, fuck, I have too much energy still. Like, I want to be worn out. I want to be like, fuck, man, I'm out. Y'all go to the club. I'm cool, bro.
A different perspective that I want to present. I don't think it's your duty, but because you make it your duty, that's what makes you you.
That makes sense.
Because you could have said, fuck everybody.
Right.
I'm doing this for me, my family, my pocket. I don't care.
Right.
But because you see the bigger picture and you make it your responsibility to help others, that's what makes you different.
I think that's where it comes down to. A lot of people is like being aware and truly recognizing the different roles and positions in that people play in your life.
Right.
And honoring them and giving them like the relevant credit and weight of how it's impacted you that it's due.
Yes.
Like I have a lot of people in my life, maybe we're not cool no more, maybe we don't talk no more, they feel some sort of way for whatever reason.
Right.
Maybe at one point I might have felt some sort of way, I could drop it, but like they might still feel that way. But I understand without this guy or this girl who played at this time of my life, this specific role, I'm not who I am today.
Right.
And so I still have like a infinite love for them. Like it doesn't mean we gotta go hang out and go party together, but like I still have like an infinite love for them. I want to see them win.
I know exactly what you mean.
Right, and I know exactly that they played in my life, and so there's like an honor. There's like an honor, like it's not even like respect. It's not even just like, oh, I'm not gonna talk bad on him because of this or that. It's like there's a real honor.
Yes.
For that part of my identity that came from that relationship with them, and so it's like to bash them or to say whatever about them is like to dishonor my own identity.
Right.
And how I got here. And also I feel like that would create issues in the future, in how my identity is formed in the future.
Right.
And so it's why I'm able to have a real look at who I am and know who I am and speak from a place of authenticity because I'm not denying any part of myself.
Right. And you're not carrying that energy,
Right.
with you.
Right.
From moment to moment to moment.
Right. So it's a lot more freeing, a lot more just like, it's just, that's how humans are supposed to be. Like, the whole concept, I don't know if you are familiar with the concept of like surrendering.
Of course.
Like letting go.
Of course.
Like when I spent probably a whole year doing spiritual work, practicing like the concept of surrendering, that's why I learned NLP, like literally just entire memories, entire emotions, being able to just completely let it go, where it's just like, the emotional charge that it has on you anymore is practically near existent. Like I can talk about some of the darkest times that I've been through in my life as if it was just a scene that I seen in the Fast and Furious movie. Whereas like before I learned these skills, I'd be like, this happened. And it's all the trauma response, all this stuff.
Yep.
Where I'm like, it's just like, it's a movie. It's like, it wasn't even necessarily my life because I don't really identify with it anymore. And so I think a lot of people, they don't do that.
No.
So they're carrying that big heavy ass bag, and that's a heavy bag.
Heavy, bro.
And their hands are blistering.
And the longer you carry it, the heavier it gets.
Right. And everything else breaks down. The legs are starting to get weak. The hands are starting to hurt. And the bag's starting to slip. Now the hands are starting to tear. And they know I can't even really bring in more or give more anymore because I'm just like stuck.
And most people will manifest that in their body.
Right.
Get
1,000%.
overweight, start carrying that weight physically.
Right. Right. And this is another thing I probably got to credit to my dad, but because he's a doctor, I remember once, I think it was the swine flu that came out, and my mom would be like, when you go to work, be careful, you might get swine flu, blah, blah. And my dad's like, oh, I'm in Madrid, like, I don't get sick. Like, and I think I was like 5 or 6 when I heard that. And it just, at that mind, I'm like, I don't get sick. I've never been sick in my life, not once.
That's incredible.
And people, I tell people that, and I'm like, why? I'm like, because I'm not the type of guy that gets sick. And people will be like, oh, that's, this, that. And
you
now, I'm not saying I've never
programmed that
felt,
into your mind.
Right. And I'm not saying I never felt bad, but I have it deeply wired, so deep in my unconscious, that even if I ever for a second start to feel like a little lightheaded or just a little off or like, just whatever, I'll literally like wrap myself up in a blanket. I'll put on like some like binaural beats or whatever. And I'm literally in my mind, and I'm literally just affirming in my mind, and I'll just literally stay there for like an hour or two. And it's almost like a meditative state, I guess you could say, because I'll go into like probably like a trance.
Recharge.
Yeah. I'm just literally like in my mind, like affirming, visualizing, and like, and then within an hour, I'm back to normal.
That's
back
incredible.
To normal. And it's an interesting thing because like now I tell people that, and they're like, oh yeah, I don't get sick, right? And then sometimes they get sick around me, and I'm like, because the way I see it is like if you're getting sick, there's obviously a multitude of factors, but if you're getting sick, it's most likely because that your mind is allowing things to stack up. Like, maybe somebody wronged you, or like financial times are tough, or like, you're going through something, whatever. Well, that's human nature. Yeah. But you're starting to let it stack up. And so your mental and your nervous system energy is starting to be consumed with trying to deal with this thing in your mind. And so it has less to dedicate to the rest of your body, because it's trying to deal with the thing in your mind.
Interesting.
Because emotions are meant to be processed, like scientifically, emotion can be processed and released within your body within less than like 120 seconds. Like if you get mad, if you knew and how to let go and surrender, it could be out of your system in 120 seconds. The emotional charge is gone. But if you like keep thinking about it, that's why I said humans are the only creatures that can't just be what they are.
Right.
If you keep thinking about it, the emotional charge stays and your nervous system starts getting overcharged. And then that's when you start now having less energy to dedicate to other things. And then there's a massive, massive ripple effect. And then that's when now your body is like, because it's dealing with all this, the energy can't deal with the sickness or with other parts. And you start to become sick. And it's almost like, I say, people with like negative mindsets are like cancer to the world because wherever they go,
facts,
right? Wherever they go, they spread it.
Yes,
and
that spreads faster than good news sometimes.
1,000%, and that's because we're wired that way. That's how we survived, and we were able to get to where we are as a society today. And so when you think like that, and I'm not saying I don't get mad, I don't get frustrated,
right?
Sometimes actually I do get mad. I'll use it as fuel. Like I used to try to almost avoid it, and then I realized that was a tool on itself. So now I'm just like, I'll get pissed off. I'm like, let's fucking go. And I'll go crazy, And so my belief and my conviction is that if I'm starting to feel off, like maybe I could get sick, is because what else in my life am I ignoring? Am I allowing in that I know is not aligned with who I am? Or am I overthinking about that I don't really have control over, but I'm thinking about it as if I did have control, and so it's just fucking me up.
Right.
You know, or who am I around who's just always in a negative mindset? Like, what are my habits? Am I going on walks? Am I going outside? Am I drinking water? Am I taking vitamins? And then I'll think, I'm like, oh, I've been around, my homie, his girlfriend that's with him is just always bitching and complaining, and always finding the negative or and it's always, and then he will also like go back into that mindset when he's around her instead of thinking like how he is with me. And then so like I'm just hearing it, I'm around it, and I'm like, yo, get fired up, and they're like, oh, what's up, bro? And it's just rubbing off on me, and I haven't cleared it. So
Windshield wipe.
Right, I haven't cleared it, and now I'm trying to work one where I can't focus, and I got brain fog. Now I'm just not in flow. Now I'm just like, I'm out of it today. Then all of a sudden I start kind of feeling, and I'm like, oh, whoa, hold up, pause. And so I kind of catch myself.
Yes.
I'm sure if I didn't catch myself, I would find myself feeling sick, but I will catch myself because you typically know when you're starting to get sick.
A little bit, yeah.
You start feeling a little off, headache, whatever.
Yeah.
You'll start to know. And so before you actually get full-blown sick, like that's the time to reset, to go hit the sauna, to go hit the cold plunge, to go pray, to go meditate, to go visualize, to eat better, to like think about what you're thinking about, that you're thinking about.
Yeah.
And obviously genes play a big role.
Huge.
But I think like epigenetics, like how you think about like your environment will signal on those genes or not. And some people they can't really do much because they're under 18 or maybe they're raised that way.
Right.
Right. I'm lucky and fortunate enough I wasn't raised in a high stress household where my body learned to be conditioned to stress. And I'll manifest stress maybe different ways too. Like, I'll be like super fucking sore or some shit, or like achy instead of maybe sick. So everybody kind of deals with stress a little differently,
Man, I really love that whole theory that you have on getting sick. I'm really curious to see if that's gonna stand when you have 11 kids. I'm really curious.
It could be tough. It could be tough
because
to get 11
kids are
to
germ
think like
fest.
But I am a maniac, man. So I'm gonna be hypnotizing my kids every night. I'm gonna be subconsciously priming them. AI, like I like my favorite artist is The Weeknd, but I know his music's not necessarily the highest level consciousness music or any rapper or singer. So I'll take AI Weeknd and put some lyrics that are like subconsciously programming my kid to think like a freaking beast.
That's awesome.
And then it sounds like The Weeknd, so I can still jam it while they're around. But then they're gonna listen to that, singing that. So while their friends are all singing like the most explicit rated R shit you could think of, not knowing what it means.
Right.
My kids are singing the same maybe beat, but in some shit that's empowering them. So I have like a whole strategy. I see kids, it's funny, when I said earlier, it's like a science project. Like I literally see my kids like a project. And so it's about, in my mind, it's like finding the right balance to be a parent, wire them for success without going overboard where it's like, bro, let them be kids.
Just get dirty.
And, but then utilizing technology in a way, because I did get on social media early.
Yeah.
But it's funny, I remember my dad once, he came into my room, it was like probably 10 o'clock p.m. And I had like my blanket over my head. I'm maybe like 13, 14. And he's like, what are you doing in here? And he like ripped off the blanket over my head. And I'm like on Instagram looking at like motivational like car pictures, reading motivational pictures.
That's awesome.
And he's like, all right. Like thought you were doing something else. Like,
we all know what he thought you were doing.
And I'm just thinking back, bro. And I'm like, so I understand. I'm like, I'm wired motherfucking differently, bro. Like, and so I want to be able to imprint my kids like that way onto them.
Yeah.
But utilizing AI, utilizing the newest stuff, while doing my best to shield them from the shit that's online, because there's some shit that's fucking crazy.
It's fucking crazy.
Yeah. But I guess probably not really even shield them of it, but I guess let them know, like let them find and understand their values.
Yeah.
And once they prioritize their value system, make sure that they understand and know how to put that on the lowest list of values. So when they see it, they're like repulsed by it, rather than like curious about it, because they haven't had the opportunity to even insert it into the value list. So giving them an opportunity to just like the value list, and boom, you understand why, long-term effects, and like, but helping them come to those conclusions themselves. Because I don't know how many times, especially in the years when I was like going through darker times and like getting back on my feet, that like I would tell people things that made sense. Like, it made sense on paper, right? It's the same knowledge I could have shared maybe in a higher state.
Right.
But I realized that it's not about what you say, it's not about how you say it, but it's about who fucking said it. And so when I was in a peak state, having that massive levels of success, the same thing, if even less things actually hit way harder. But when I was, not at my best self, I could say the same thing, even more things that are even, more intelligent, but it just didn't hit the same.
Hit.
And so I've learned through that kind of process of trying to get my messages to stick with people around me, friends, family, cousins, whatever.
That just shows you that's really your energy. It's not really what you're saying.
Right, exactly. Yeah, because it's where it's coming from.
Right.
The source of it. And so I spent a lot of time also realizing, like, because during that point of time, my messages wouldn't stick, but I also probably wasn't communicating the same, because I didn't see myself the same. And so I realized these are all the ways that people, like, that if you say something, people are going to naturally resist and they're going to naturally react and be like, I'm not going to do it.
Right.
Like, just because you said I should do it, I'm not going to do it. And so now
It's up to you, bro. You have that choice.
Exactly, exactly. And so, but I do think it is an amazing skill set if you can figure out how to help people come to the conclusion themselves.
Yes.
And one of the ways
As a podcaster, I needed a place to share my voice and hear other stories. That's how Forge Studios was born. A place created not just for me, but for everyone searching for something more. An environment where as soon as you walk in, you feel the energy and you feel welcomed. Where being seen and heard is part of the experience. A place for entrepreneurs to share their journey, for creators to bring ideas to life, for businesses to grow authentically. A space that values mental health, encourages real conversations, and supports those who turns ideas into impact. Here at the Forge Studios, creativity, culture, and purpose aligns and comes together to help you create something greater. A place where we leave the filters behind and we start expressing ourselves for real. The Forge Studio. Your journey starts here. Your impact starts now.
realized recently how to do that is like hypnotic questions. So it's like questions that break people out of the current frame. So like, I'll give you one quick example. My mom decided to change law schools because of like just different complications at her school. The school wasn't accredited. Like she was experiencing some like mistreatment. And but she was kind of on the edge of, should I leave? Should I go somewhere else? And I'm like, you're spending more time and energy like talking about why it's not a good experience than you should be spending studying. So you should just go to the other. I was like, the fact that you're even considering it, the fact that it's even on your mind, I'm like, it's already done. You're just now prolonging it.
Right.
Like if somebody's like, should I break up with this person? You're already gonna do it. You're already gonna do it. You know, it's just like, so just do it now. Pull the Band-Aid off, do it now. But people will look for the rationalizations, more reasons, more justification to get that tipping point before they make the decision.
Correct.
And so when I asked her, because a million times I was like, yeah, you should do it. Just change schools, change schools. Never did it, never did it, never did it, never did it. Then I learned hypnotic questions. And then I was like, well, what would you get that if you left the school and you went to this new school, like what would make it better for you? Like how would you actually be like, this was a win? And then she's like, well, I'd be like, I'd be winning. I'd be like successful in my studies. I would, feel like this. I'm like, okay, so what exactly does winning look like to you? Right? And she's like, what do you mean? I'm like, what is it? You say you would be winning. How would you know you're winning? Like, what does that look like to you? Like, how would you know you're winning? Like, what are the metrics? And she's like, like I never thought about that. And so she had to kind of think for a couple moments, like, well, if I was winning, like, or I felt like I was winning, this would be happening. This would be happening. I would feel like this. My teachers would be able to answer my questions instead of be like, oh, figure it out yourself, like this. Right. And that would make me feel like I'm winning. I'm like, okay. And so you also said, you would be successful in these metrics because of X, Y, Z. And like, so how would you know you're actually successful? And like, what things would make you think you're not successful? And then she has to now think about it because it's different from me just being like, oh, you should, or like, oh, that sucks, or like, and so she had to really think about it. And I could hear the pause because the conversation, is a big pattern interrupt because her brain was like, I never even thought about that before. Right. Like, like, what does that even mean? Like, what does it look like? Like, how would you know? Like, so you have to come up now with objectable, physical material, like, qualifications.
Sometimes we want things and don't even know what they are.
Right, right, exactly. And so that moment at the end of the call, she's like, I'm gonna do it right now. I'm gonna withdraw from the school. She's like, you helped me make that decision. She's like, damn, you asked some good questions. And that was like the first day I started studying these hypnotic questions. And I was like, dude, what the fuck? I need to study more of these. So obviously I trained persuasions on all those as well,
That's awesome.
But I was like, what happens if I ask myself these types of questions?
That's how you got to your AI platform.
Right, exactly. You know, and so what happens if I ask myself these type of questions? Sometimes I go to sleep and I ask myself, what would it look like if I hit this level in my business? Like, how would I know I'm there? Oh, my accountant would call me and be like, we hit this much in sales today. Or maybe I would log into my Stripe and I see we hit this much. So I'm like, I'm thinking of all the ways that how I would know I was there. And I'm like, what would that feel like? What would I be doing differently? And just doing that, my mind starts throwing images I've never seen before. You know, and the way I feel when I wake up, the way I feel when I go to sleep is like radically different than just like another day of just like hustling through the work, you know? And so I think, again, like, the right questions will pull out better answers.
For sure.
You know?
Like AI, right? The right prompt.
Right, yeah,
Same idea.
1,000% makes a massive difference.
Yeah.
You know?
Man.
That's the best way to think about your own mind is like AI. Like if your own mind was AI, how would you get better results? Better prompt, better input, better training, better personalization, different personas for different things. This is my dad cap.
Better input.
Right, exactly. You know, keeping all the memory and experiences from the past, but not holding on to it as like this set stone way.
Right.
You know, I mean, I had this one theory. It's funny. It's like we might advance AI so much that one day we might all of a sudden end up inside of a room and we'll see at a computer and we'll be like, God? And he's gonna be like, yo, how the fuck y'all get here? And, and you know, it's like AI get that advanced that we end up where we started.
That would be something, huh?
With all the metaverse and, you know, the VR, AR, you never know.
That would be something. Man, you are so knowledgeable. You are a wealth of electricity knowledge.
I appreciate that, my brother.
No, like, I mean that in the most sincere, like almost flabbergasted way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, thank you.
You have so much knowledge, bro. Like, I see you having like a community of people that you've coached and trained and teach and following you and just providing this knowledge out to the world so they can go provide that knowledge out into the world. They continue that cycle over and over again.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. With that said, let me ask you a question. What are 3 things you think I could do better or that are maybe not my strong points?
Interesting question. I would say
be brutal, bro, because I'm brutal on my own mind, so be brutal.
Wow. I don't think you need to slow down. I don't think you do. Because I think the people that don't get you are not for you.
Right.
I don't think you need to slow down. I think you stumped me right now.
I'm sure I got a lot, bro. Maybe I have to run back the video replay, ask AI, where's this guy suck at? Yeah.
No, I don't think you suck at all, actually. Okay. I think you need to take more time to smell the roses. I think your brain thinks so fast and you want to do so much. I don't think you've had time to enjoy half of what you've accomplished.
Right. I can feel that for sure, actually. You know,
I don't think you understand how much you've done at 27. You've done a lot. If you were to compare yourself to other 27-year-olds, you're at the top 1% of the way you think, the way you run, the way you generate. I think you have to take more time to smell the roses.
That makes a lot of sense. That's,
enjoy more the fruits of your labor. Exactly. Yeah.
I like that, actually. It's a good reminder. You know, sometimes we get so in the zone.
Yeah.
You know, and then it's like, and I've had a couple of even days like that even recently where I'm like, I'll take it just a day off because I'm like, I don't even want to work today. I'm like, what the fuck? Why am I working? You know, and it's like, I know why I'm working, but it's just like, at what point is it like fun, exciting versus like, if I'm just working?
Do you have a girlfriend?
No, not at the moment.
I think you need one.
I had one, you know, but the thing with me, man, is all my girlfriend's always foreign. So it's always long distance, travel, this and that. You know, so I have a girl that I'm talking to her now. We might say she's my girlfriend.
Okay.
We're gonna go do something. We're gonna go to Turks and Caicos next month.
Nice.
But it's
because
like,
the girl is gonna help you enjoy more of your time.
I agree. I do agree. I do
Yeah.
agree. Feminine energy is very important.
Yes.
Very important.
Yes. They're more in the now. They're more grounded than we are.
Right.
You know?
It's always my biggest challenge with girls is like, you work too much, this is that, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yo, chill. I'm like, this lifestyle's got to get paid for somehow. You know? And it is something I have gotten better at in recent relationships compared to before.
Yeah.
But I think even before, I didn't even really realize that was a problem. Whereas now I'm like, let me try to be, like, there's a fine balance.
Yeah.
But I also think as well too is with women, they need to have, a part of them that like, because women, like, most women that I've experienced is like, you give them more of you, they want more of you. Like, you know, and it will become, and I see a lot of guys actually, that this would be their downfall, is they become overly, and I think this has to do a lot with like how they're raised.
Yeah.
But they'll become overly obsessed, and they just kind of will get away from their principles or like, you know, their values.
To please this woman.
Right.
Yeah.
And you know, and I've been there, I've done that, but I've now learned how to recognize it, like, you know, because I just don't like who I am. If I'm like, you're attracted to the best version of me. At the second that I'm not being the best version of me because of me like changing or conforming to ways you want me to be, I already know for a fact it's only a matter of time you're not gonna like me soon because I'm not the guy that you were attracted to. So I need to stay aligned with my principles. And you may not like it, you may complain about it, you may be, oh, this is that, but this is actually the guy you truly are attracted to.
Right.
You know?
100%.
You know, I think so.
Do you want me or do you want the money?
Right.
Like, what are you here for?
Exactly.
You know, it's essentially.
And so I think if more women become aware of that and understand that's, because it is human nature, just you fall on the honeymoon stage and everything just blurs out, you know? And I think if women become aware that's their pattern and that's guys' patterns, that they should be a little bit more being like, go work, like, go produce, go, like, go. Like,
Correct.
you know, and then be that safe haven, be that feminine energy, but also not be like don't ever create a negative association with a guy's passion or purpose with you. That's just not good for the woman.
Right.
Like, because the second you start being like, you do this too much, you do that too much. Now, I'm not saying maybe they, like, you know, maybe they should actually tone it back a little bit, right? However, you have to be smart. With AI today, it's so fucking easy on how do I communicate this and get it across so I'm not unconsciously associating my face with these complaints, with this energy, with his work. Like, you know what I mean? Because that's the unconscious association. And so now, all of a sudden, like, the guy is unconsciously trying to not show himself working while around the girl to avoid these negative feelings. And then, you know, and that just over time boils up and then it fucking bursts. And so, like, there's ways to communicate these certain things. And I just think with AI, like, you could just you don't have to be the fucking smartest in the world anymore. You could just, like, be like, this is my problem. Here's how I feel. Here's how he feels. Here's how we both want to feel. What's the best way to do it?
Right.
You know, and ChatGPT would be like, that's a smart way of thinking. Most people don't think like that. And I go to give you the answer.
Bro, I think you're so intelligent. I don't think you need AI for that. You're such a good communicator. Relationship is about communication. It's all it is.
1,000%.
Communication.
1,000%. I say communication. So two things a relationship needs, any relationship, business, dating, is one is communication.
Yeah.
And two is commitment. And so I gotta communicate my commitments to you.
Correct.
It's okay for me to change my commitments if I communicate that to you.
Correct.
But the second that I start breaking commitments and don't communicate, or I don't communicate my commitments, we're heading towards the fucking path of destruction.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Married 19 years. Well, together 19 years, married 9.
Wow.
100%.
What's some advice you can give me for that? Because that's the next phase of life. And, you know, that's
Yeah.
You know?
So we've been together since we were 18.
Wow.
I'm 37. We'll be married 9 years next month. Word of advice. Take it a year at a time. I don't see marriage as a lifelong contract. I see it as a yearly contract because I think people grow and change every single year.
Right, right.
So I think every year my wife and I have to recommit to each other.
Right.
Right? We have to, do you still want to do this? Right? Are we going on the right path?
Right.
Right? Is there anything that I've done this year that you don't like or vice versa?
Right.
Right? I think reflecting on your relationship, reflecting on where you are, because I think the hardest part about a marriage is that it's two individuals that's supposed to come as one.
Right.
But both of you are going to evolve differently. So at every single part of that evolution, there must be communication about where you are and what you want in life.
Right, right.
Right? Because at 18, we didn't want kids. But at 28 and 30, we did. You know? At 25, we couldn't fathom a company. At 30, we built our own company together. You know? So like, you're gonna go through different phases together and individually, and you gotta make sure that both parties are at the same page at the same time.
That's actually amazing advice. Because I think a lot of people, they're thinking like lifelong from the get-go. Like, what do you want for your whole life?
Yeah,
You know, what do you
no,
want for
that's
your
too
whole life?
far ahead.
Right, and then, so if it aligns, it doesn't align, some people don't even ask the question at all, and they're just like in the moment. You know, but I think I like that, just a year at a time.
A year at a time.
I like that. That makes a lot of sense.
Take it a year at a time. Don't, like, you won't know what's gonna happen to you tomorrow or about 10 years from now.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Right. No, that's good.
if you assume that because I married you, you're here till I die, that's your
Right.
biggest mistake.
Right, right. That's a big one right there too, right? Because
Yes.
you want to make sure as partners, you're both growing, evolving, building yourself.
Correct.
Staying aligned with, you know, whether it's God, mindset, frequency, principles, values. You know, it doesn't mean you could just, oh, boom, locked in.
Right.
Now I'm gonna go start robbing people.
Right. Right.
You know, you gotta, you know, really make sure that
I'll tell
you're
you here.
sharpening the tool all the time.
100%. I think the biggest mistake couples make is they get married and stop chasing each other. That's the biggest mistake.
Right.
Like, my wife wants to be chased as if she's a 16-year-old girl.
1000%. That makes a lot of sense.
You know? Just because I married her, been together 20 years, that doesn't change.
Right.
She
right.
still wants to feel that from me and vice versa.
Right. Right.
You know?
That's good. That's a big one right there too.
Yeah.
You know, finding ways in relationships, whether it's special date nights or just
Exact.
even if
Special
it's-
trips, special.
Right.
Bro, a bouquet of flowers,
Right. Right.
you know? Or a nice phone call or a nice message.
Right. Thank you. I'm dehydrated like a motherfucker.
That's a good brother, bro.
Now,
That's a good brother,
every
bro.
time I do a podcast, I don't know what it is. I think it's the lights because I used to do like daily live calls and I had like a community. My camera guy set up all these lights.
Yeah.
I'll start sweating. I get like dry lips. Like when I work all at night. Like my hours, like in the daytime, I might do content, network, or whatever. But my hours of work are like 7 p.m. to like 4 a.m. Like for like the last 7 years.
That's
You
great.
know, like lights
Yeah.
dim, got my music on, I'm in my
Yeah.
zone. Like, yeah.
Bro, I could talk to you all day.
Yeah, I know for sure.
I could talk to you all fucking day. But we're gonna leave this here because we're definitely gonna do a round 2. And we're gonna do you and your brother together.
Let's do it.
I can't wait to do that. It's gonna be incredible.
Let's do it.
You guys are a powerhouse, bro.
I feel like that podcast is going to be a bit more like playful or funny.
Yes,
Just
100%.
Because
Because now we got to know both of you individually.
Yeah.
Now let's put that together.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of laughter for sure.
Yes. Bro, I appreciate you coming. I appreciate you sharing your knowledge. I appreciate you sharing who you are with the world. I appreciate you putting yourself out there and not taking what life gave you as an answer, going after it and making it your own.
Thank you, bro. Thank you for inviting me here. You guys got a sick studio.
I appreciate you,
Might
bro.
have to come back literally this week.
Yeah,
Run
man.
it
You let
up.
me know. I got you.
Yeah,
Seriously.
that's it.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Do me a favor. Look at that camera right there. Let everybody know where they can find you, website, course, whatever you want to share.
You guys can find me on on Instagram. Unfortunately, my main Instagram with 500,000 followers is currently down. Hopefully we get it back soon, but that's at JetSet. On all the other platforms at JetSet, like YouTube, Twitter, the JetSet. My website is joshkingmadrid.com. And then persuasions.ai. By the time you're watching this, you'll probably see a page where you can get on the wait list if you're interested on it. Or maybe we can even do like some sort of special link, put it in the
That would be
description
incredible.
below.
Hell yeah.
People can test it, run it up, check it out. What else we got? And then we have rank1.com and panelrank.com. So we help entrepreneurs, brands, musicians build their personal brand and solidify their Google presence, and also as well as the results that show up inside of AI. And so that's like a big thing because a lot of people don't know is that actually affects how you pull up in the other search algorithms. So I saw you have a panel. A lot of entrepreneurs though, you Google them, no panel. They don't exist. Somebody has the same name as them. And because of that, the algorithm doesn't know how to correctly place them.
Right.
And so they don't get as much reach as they possibly can. And it's also a liability if you have an angry customer, or, somebody that's a hater,
Yeah.
they can, really rap on your brand.
I was so proud of that, bro. That Google panel. I was so proud of
clean,
that. I
huh?
was so proud of that.
It's clean. Yeah, man. We built actually a lot of the panels for a lot of the biggest guys in the industry.
That's incredible.
Like, I had my team, so I had about an 8-9 month season where I was investing about $7,000 a month into my team, building the top 40 entrepreneurs panels, just as to test, to gather data. Because I built mine and realized, holy shit, when I build mine, it affects the algorithm like this. So we worked on Ties, we worked on Grant, Stan Bazarians, Iman Gotzi's, Wes Watson, who else?
That's incredible.
Alex Hormozy, Layla Hormozy, a lot of these YouTuber guys, Sebastian, Jojo. I mean, a lot of dudes. I just literally told my team, work on all their stuff, build them all sites, do them press releases. And so literally, some of them know, some of them don't know. The ones I'm friends with, they know. But they were just building their shit just so we can get the data to understand how the algorithm works.
That's
now, bro, we're
crazy.
flawless. We can build panels in a week. We can remove negative things off page 1 of Google within less than a month. So that's probably one of our North Stars, And so anyways, panel rank 1, persuasions. Those are the combos for building your brand, make sure you have a solidified online presence, and then personally reach out with Josh King Madrid, and then pretty much JetSet or Set Jetfly on all social media.
As a podcaster, I needed a place to share my voice and hear other stories. That's how Forge Studios was born. A place created not just for me, but for everyone searching for something more. An environment where as soon as you walk in, you feel the energy and you feel welcomed. Where being seen and heard is part of the experience. A place for entrepreneurs to share their journey, for creators to bring ideas to life, for businesses to grow authentically. A space that values mental health, encourages real conversations, and supports those who turns ideas into impact. Here at the Forge Studios, creativity, culture, and purpose aligns and comes together to help you create something greater. A place where we leave the filters behind and we start expressing ourselves for real. The Forge Studio. Your journey starts here. Your impact starts now.
Incredible. Bro, we went on for almost 2 hours.
And I can see you looking at time every once in a while.
Well, I'm just checking to make sure. If you did not get any bit of knowledge from this podcast, there's something fucking wrong with you. Because Josh dropped gems, bombs. Go follow him. Go follow his brother Blonde. Like, subscribe, hit that bell notification, and we'll see you guys next time.